Chapter 1184. System Notification. You have accepted the Profession Skill Quest, Xing Yali's Help. Quest Level A. Quest Details. Find and kill the fallen divine envoy, Leon. Leon? This name looks a little familiar. Wang Yu was stunned when he saw the quest details. He then asked Demon King Fungus, "Isn't this Leon the Light Envoy? How did he become the fallen divine envoy?" Demon King Fungus shuddered when he heard this. He hurriedly said, I don't know. Nyo Go, you must be mistaken. Xing Yali had always disliked Demon King Fungus from the Dark faction. If Demon King Fungus admitted that the NPC he was looking for was the fallen divine envoy, he would be killed on the spot. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. No matter how paralyzed Xing Yali was, she was still a god-level boss. Demon King Fungus was no fool. He would definitely not admit it. Just as Demon King Fungus was trying to disassociate himself, Xing Yali nodded and said, "You're right. It's that Leon." At the mention of Leon, Xing Yali's originally pure and holy expression immediately became sinister and twisted. She gnashed her teeth and said, "Leon, that traitor, used my trust in him to betray God and betray justice. He turned the victory that was supposed to belong to God into this situation. Even I," Xing Yali sighed and said, "even I was severely injured by him. I can't move. If it wasn't for the protection of the temple, I'm afraid I would have, all right?" Hearing this, Wang Yu roughly understood the ins and outs of the story. In any case, it was the kind of trust and betrayal that couldn't be any more melodramatic. The female lead was Xing Yali, and the male lead was naturally Leon. The hermit was probably just a side character in this story. Therefore, Wang Yu asked in a gossipy manner, "What is your relationship with Leon? Why do you trust him so much?" Xing Yali glared at Wang Yu and snorted coldly. "It's none of your business." From Xing Yali's reaction, it wasn't hard to tell that hermit was really a cameo. No wonder that old man and Simba got along so well. They were the legendary spare tires. Wang Yu couldn't help but ask with a smirk, "Do you remember Hermit?" "What Hermit?" Xing Yali was confused. "My teacher, the one you gave the cross to," Wang Yu said. "Oh!" Xing Yali suddenly understood. "It's that mortal. Is his name Hermit? What a strange name." Hearing Xing Yali's reply, Wang Yu's heart suddenly thumped. It seemed like things weren't as simple as Hermit had made them out to be. Simba was a spare tire, but at least his name was remembered by the goddess, and he had a chance to work for her. Hermit, on the other hand, was a little pitiful. Xing Yali couldn't even remember his name. Since Xing Yali and Hermit were on the same side, there was an 80% chance that Xing Yali wouldn't carry Hermit's manuscript around with her. Thinking of this, Wang Yu asked carefully, "Do you remember if that mortal gave you a manuscript?" "Manuscript? What manuscript?" Xing Yali was still confused. "No manuscript?" Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and stared at Xing Yali. "If you don't have a manuscript, what are you going to give us as a reward for helping you?" "Reward?" Xing Yali was stunned. She then said with a disdainful look, "Are you a mortal who has been converted by the gods? It's your honor to help the gods, and you want a reward? Did I say I was going to give you a reward?" This. Wang Yu quickly opened the quest tab. As expected, there was no reward for the quest. F***CK. Seeing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but curse. Damn it, so this woman is trying to get something for nothing. Fortunately, I asked a few more questions, or I would have been tricked by the game designer without knowing it. It seems that I have to think twice before accepting a quest without a clear reward in the future. I didn't expect there to be a trap here. A crippled NPC with no reward, and yet she's so arrogant. Obviously, this woman wants to go to heaven. At this time, Wang Yu naturally wouldn't let her go. After thinking for a while, Wang Yu asked Xing Yali, "Do you know where Leon is?" "He's in the Darkness Shrine." Xing Yali said, "That traitor is also seriously injured, and can only rely on the shrine for protection. The Darkness Shrine is directly west of the Brilliance Shrine. I see. Wang Yu nodded and said, I'm not a member of the Darkness Shrine, how can I gain his trust? You're not, but she is. Xing Yali pointed at the devil fungus and said, ask her to help you kill Leon, and then bring his head back to me. Her? Wang Yu glanced at the devil fungus and said with a smile, she can't. Not to mention whether the devil fungus had the ability to do so, even if it did. The devil fungus was an outsider to Wang Yu's quest, so the key to this quest was definitely not the devil fungus. Then what do you say? Xing Yali asked curiously. Wang Yu smiled and said calmly, I heard a story when I was a child. An assassin named Jing Ku wanted to kill the king of Qin, and then to gain the king's trust, he found the king's enemy, Fan Yuqi, and borrowed something from him. What thing? Fan Yuqi's head. What? Xing Yali's expression changed. Before Xing Yali could react, Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared behind her. He put his fingers together and used them as a knife, stabbing into the broken wing on Xing Yali's back. 221154 Suddenly, a huge damage value jumped up above Xing Yali's head. Wang Yu's guess was right. The heavily injured Xing Yali was like a paper tiger. He aimed for a vital point and dealt 1,000,000 damage. Xing Yali didn't expect Wang Yu to suddenly attack. Caught off guard, she picked up the broken sword on the ground and counterattacked. However, Xing Yali was a half-crippled person who could barely move freely. Her speed and strength were far inferior to Wang Yu's. Wang Yu lowered his head and turned around. He turned in front of Xing Yali, and with a flip of his hand, a dagger appeared in his hand. He stabbed it into Xing Yali's throat. 551124 Another damage value appeared. Xing Yali's figure flashed, and she raised her hand. She began chanting and gathering magic. She still dared to chant a spell when a grandmaster of combat like Wang Yu got close to her. It seemed that Xing Yali's brain had rusted. Seeing this, Wang Yu didn't say anything and stabbed the dagger into Xing Yali's mouth. Xing Yali's chanting stopped. It couldn't be helped. In her heavily injured state, Xing Yali's attributes had greatly decreased. Wang Yu didn't know how high her magic damage was, but judging from her movements, she was at most a level 40 or level 50 boss. When Wang Yu was level 30, he could already bully a level 50 epic boss. Now that he was level 60, dealing with a cripple like Xing Yali was a piece of cake. Chapter 1185. After Xing Yali died, her head automatically turned into a box and fell to the ground. At this moment, Wang Yu also received a system notification. You have killed the Light Faction's commander, Xing Yali. Light Faction reputation points minus 200. Light Faction honor points minus 200. You will be pursued by the Light Faction's allied forces in the Divine Demon Fortress. As expected, killing Xing Yali was the correct way to complete this quest. Wang Yu was starting to suspect that Hermit's courtship had failed, so he had used someone else to do the dirty work. From this point, it could be seen that although Hermit's actions were extremely uncultured, he was much more decisive than Simba. He was already so old, yet he was still doing such things. Wang Yu did not know whether to laugh or cry as he walked forward, picked up Xing Yali's head, and threw it into his backpack. At the same time, Demon King Fungus, who had been deceived the entire time, was dumbfounded when he saw that Wang Yu had really killed Xing Yali. He pointed a trembling finger at Wang Yu and asked, "You? Why did you kill her?" Wang Yu said, "Because she's dead. That's the only way we can get close to Leon." Demon King Fungus shouted in shock, "That's not what I'm asking. What I mean is, she's a level 200 boss. Haven't you thought about the consequences?" "Consequences?" Wang Yu smiled and said, "Since she thinks that you can kill Leon, she can see that Leon is also on his last breath. She can't even beat an opponent on his last breath. How strong can she be?" This Demon King Fungus was speechless when he heard Wang Yu's explanation. Although he felt that something was wrong, he could not refute it. Could Could this be the way the world's #1 expert plays? It really is different. Alright. Just as Demon King Fungus was feeling conflicted, Wang Yu suddenly said, "We should run now." Run? What do you mean? Demon King Fungus was still confused. When the two of them reached the entrance of the Tao God Shrine, Demon King Fungus finally realized that Wang Yu was in trouble. At this moment, the entrance of the temple was filled with monsters. These monsters were all wearing white armor. It was not difficult to tell that they were the undead souls of the Light faction. They surrounded the temple. Not only that, but as far as the eye could see, there were countless white-armored souls surging over from all directions. "Take care, I'm going to run first," Wang Yu shouted and activated his lightness skill. He left the devil fungus behind and ran towards the darkness shrine alone. Damn you! Seeing how disloyal Wang Yu was, Demon King Fungus stomped his feet in anger and quickly hid himself. Of course, at the level of the Demon King Fungus, its stealth technique could be easily seen by monsters. However, the monster's aggro was all on Wang Yu. No one cared about the devil fungus. After Wang Yu left, the monsters all chased after him. The devil fungus, who was lucky enough not to be gnawed to death by the monsters, secretly broke into a cold sweat and then shouted in the team channel, "Where are you? Where should I find you?" "To the west, where there are many black monsters," Wang Yu replied to the devil fungus while he was busy. The devil fungus looked around, then hid behind the monster army and quietly left the light shrine. Compared to the devil fungus, Wang Yu was in a more tragic situation. The density of monsters in the Divine Demon Fortress was far higher than in any other place. Even if half of the monsters in the Dark faction were removed, there would still be an astronomical number of monsters chasing after Wang Yu. These monsters flew much faster than Wang Yu. Wang Yu did not even dare to fly. He only dared to use his faster lightness skill to escape. However, no matter how fast his Qin Gong was, he couldn't stop the monsters from surrounding him from all directions. Furthermore, Wang Yu's Qin Gong required him to run on the ground and was restricted by the terrain. What's worse was that there was a limit to his Qin Gong. Under the siege of countless level 100 monsters, Wang Yu ran all over the place. Wherever there were more monsters in the Dark faction, he would run. However, these monsters from the Light faction seemed to have locked onto Wang Yu. They did not care about their former enemies and only wanted to kill Wang Yu. Wang Yu did not have the slightest advantage against these monsters. As time passed, more and more monsters appeared behind Wang Yu. Just as Wang Yu's lightness skill was about to run out, a gloomy mouse suddenly crawled to Wang Yu's side. Squeak! The little mouse squeaked at Wang Yu and circled around Wang Yu. Then, it turned around and ran in another direction. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. At that time, the monsters that were chasing after Wang Yu turned around and chased after him as if they were possessed. Looking at the monster leaving, Wang Yu was a little confused and stood rooted to the ground. At that moment, the voice of the Devil King Fungus came from not far away. "You have no sense of loyalty. I saved you once. You owe me a life, do you understand? That mouse is yours?" Wang Yu quickly turned around and asked curiously, "What is that?" "Clockwork mouse," the Devil King Fungus said unhappily. "It's a one-time item given by the quest. I've been running for so long, but I've only managed to save 2 of them. I can't bear to use them myself." As it spoke, the Devil King Fungus took out an identical mouse and waved it in front of Wang Yu's eyes. "Clockwork mouse, special item. Can divert the target's aggro elsewhere. If the aggro is not diverted to another target after 5 minutes, the attributes of the aggro monster will increase by 20%. Interesting. Wang Yu was surprised when he saw the attributes of the Clockwork mouse. The attributes of this thing were too obscene. It could divert one's own aggro to others. It was simply a tool to cheat people. From the attribute enhancement effect, this thing was also a double-edged sword. Ordinary people would definitely use this thing cautiously. However, if it was in the hands of those B*cheese from Chuanjian, TSK, the consequences would be unimaginable. No wonder the Devil King fungus liked to run rings. It turned out that she could get so many strange items. Well, I saved you once, and now I owe you a favor. We're even. We can be friends in the future. As he spoke, Wang Yu took the initiative to extend his hand, indicating that the hatred of the past was written off. Tisk! The Devil King fungus curled her lips and said, "Stingy. I thought you could help me for free this time." Having said that, the Devil King fungus still extended her hand. The two of them smiled and settled the grudge. Wang Yu smiled and said, "Friends are friends, business is business. At most, I'll give you a discount in the future. Let's go. Otherwise, when those monsters come back, we'll all die here." Okay. The Devil King fungus nodded and followed behind Wang Yu, all the way to the Darkness Shrine. 5 minutes was not long, but it was not short either. As Wang Yu had killed Xing Yali, the souls of the Light faction had all gone after the Clockwork Mouse. The monsters of the Dark faction did not take the initiative to attack Wang Yu and the Devil King fungus. Just like that, the two of them ran wildly and finally found the Darkness Shrine that Xing Yali had mentioned before the souls of the Light faction came back. They quickly entered the Darkness Shrine. As the headquarters of the monsters of the Dark faction, the Darkness Shrine was naturally very safe. Looking at their pursuers outside the shrine, Wang Yu let out a long sigh of relief. Chapter 1186. Who are you? Why did you break into my darkness temple? The voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by Wang Yu and Demon Fungus. The two of them quickly turned around and looked into the depths of the temple. They saw a man in black sitting in the center of the temple. The man in black was pale and his hair was messy. Although he looked dignified, he couldn't hide his sorry state. Wang Yu looked around and saw that there was no one else around. It wasn't hard to tell that the person who had just spoken was this man in black. The distance from the Divine Hall to the entrance of the Divine Hall, where Wang Yu and Xing Yali were, was at least a dozen meters. The person's soft words had penetrated through the noise of the pursuers at the entrance of the Divine Hall and clearly reached the two's ears. It was obvious that the person's strength was not below Xing Yali's. Needless to say, this person was undoubtedly the legendary light messenger Leon. Wang Yu was just about to step forward and ask, but before he could take a few steps, a black barrier suddenly appeared and blocked their way. At that time, Leon, who was in the temple, asked coldly, "Did you bring the Crusaders outside?" Wang Yu was speechless. This game designer was sinister and cunning. It was fine if he played word games in his daily quests, but he didn't expect that there would be traps hidden in the NPC's dialogue. Leon's tone was hostile. If Wang Yu answered, yes, honestly, Leon would probably throw the two of them out of the temple without a second word. Fortunately, Wang Yu was a conservative NPC, and he had almost been tricked by Xing Yali just now. Naturally, he was more cautious about everything. Hearing Leon's tone, Wang Yu replied in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "These Crusaders are my pursuers." Leon raised an eyebrow in the Divine Hall of Darkness. He asked again, "Why are they hunting you?" "Because of this." Wang Yu took out the box containing Xing Yali's head from his bag and threw it in Leon's direction. The box passed through the barrier and landed beside Leon. Leon was shocked. He didn't open the box but asked curiously, "What is this?" "Xing Yali's head. I killed her." Wang Yu cupped his fists and said, "Right now we are being chased by the Crusaders. Please allow us to enter the temple and protect us." You killed Xing Yali?" Leon looked at the box not far away in surprise and then sighed, Good. I didn't expect you to be so capable at such a young age. Since you've helped me get rid of my greatest threat, then come in." As he spoke, a black light surrounded Wang Yu. Apart from the color, Leon's method was almost exactly the same as Xing Yali's. Just as Wang Yu had expected, The key to this mission was the stepping stone to entering the 2 shrines. Needless to say, the cross given by Hermit was the key to entering the Temple of Light, and the key to entering the Temple of Darkness was Xing Yali's head. Only someone like Wang Yu, who didn't play by the rules, would dare to fight a celestial boss like Xing Yali. Based on Hermit's words at the beginning, no one would think that they had to kill Xing Yali in order to complete this quest, let alone whether they would dare to fight a celestial boss like Xing Yali. What did it mean to be dangerous? What did it mean to be well-intentioned? This time, Wang Yu had really seen it for herself. Seeing that Wang Yu had entered the temple, Demon King Fungus hurriedly shouted, "What about me? What about me? Who are you?" Leon heard the sound and noticed the Demon Fungus, so he asked after a pause. The Demon King Fungus hurriedly took out a letter from his bosom, raised it and shouted, "The great elder of the Dark Council, Cervantes, asked me to give this to you." To put it bluntly, it was a mission to deliver a letter. This letter was the stepping stone for the Devil King Fungus. "Cervantes? I haven't seen him for a long time, you come in too." Saying this, Demon King Fungus was also put into the temple. After the 2 entered the temple, Wang Yu gave Demon King Fungus a look and whispered, "You go submit the mission first." Demon King Fungus didn't understand what Wang Yu meant, but since Wang Yu had said so, she didn't dare to disobey, so she walked forward and handed the letter to Leon. Demon King Fungus's mission was a simple mission, and it didn't mix with Wang Yu's mission at all. Demon King Fungus smoothly completed the last part of the mission after handing the letter to Leon. After completing the mission, the generous reward made Demon King Fungus's experience bar skyrocket. Then Leon nodded and praised, "Good child, it must have been hard on you. This is a piece of ore I got when I was young. I don't have much use for it now. Take it." As he spoke, Leon took out a black and swarthy stone and handed it to the Demon King Fungus. What an ugly stone! Demon King Fungus was a girl, and she was used to judging by appearance. After receiving the black stone, she muttered discontentedly and was about to put it away. At this moment, Wang Yu seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly asked, "What is this?" Demon King Fungus glanced at the stone and said, "It's called black crystal, but it doesn't look like a crystal to me." At the same time, Demon King Fungus displayed the stone's attribute. Black crystal, an unknown mineral that contains a mysterious power. F***ck. How did the black crystal come about? Seeing the attributes of the stone in Demon King Fungus's hand, Wang Yu's eyeballs almost fell out. Wang Yu also knew that the black crystal could only be obtained by completing missions, but in Wang Yu's subconscious, such a precious thing could only be obtained by completing at least an S-rank mission. Who knew that it was obtained from the simplest mission like running a circle? What kind of messed up setting is this game? Of course, what Wang Yu did not know was that although running a circle was simple, it was not easy to do simple things continuously. Moreover, the rarity of a 250 circle running mission was definitely not much higher than an S-rank mission. Moreover, there was a limit to whether or not one could obtain the black crystal in the end. This time, Demon King Fungus was really lucky. "Why? Do you like this thing?" Demon King Fungus looked at the black crystal in her hand and asked Wang Yu in confusion. Wang Yu nodded vigorously. "I've been looking for this recently." "Then take it." Demon King Fungus heard this and threw the black crystal over. Wang Yu took the black crystal and said, feeling overwhelmed by the favor, "For me? This? How can I accept this?" Obviously, Demon King Fungus did not know the value of the black crystal. As the saying went, one should not accept a reward without doing anything. If Wang Yu just accepted it, wouldn't that mean for you? In your dreams. Demon King Fungus laughed. "This is your reward. Quickly return the mercenary contract to me. You shameless person, you still want to renege on your debt?" Wang Yu. After Wang Yu returned the contract to Demon King Fungus, Demon King Fungus' mission was officially completed. So, she patted Wang Yu's shoulder and said, "Okay, the mission is completed. Let's go." Chapter 1187. With that, Wang Yu walked up to Leon and asked, "Your Excellency Leon, I've helped you get rid of your mortal enemy. Shouldn't you show me some gratitude?" If Wang Yu's guess was right, since the key to his quest was these two temples, then Hermit's notebook must be in these two temples. Xing Yali had already been killed by Wang Yu, and not even a hair had dropped. It was obvious that Hermit's notebook was in Leon's hands. Therefore, it was reasonable for Wang Yu to ask Leon for a reward. However, Wang Yu seemed to have underestimated the shamelessness of NPCs. Even if a player completed a quest, they would still want to deduct the reward, not to mention Wang Yu's current situation. "Show." Hearing Wang Yu's words, Leon sneered. "I didn't ask you to kill her. Why should I show you anything? Did you accept a quest from me? In the game, if you didn't accept a quest, you couldn't activate the reward system." Leon's logic wasn't wrong. Not only did Leon not give Wang Yu a reward, but he also asked Wang Yu, "You were being chased by the Crusaders, and I let you into the temple to take refuge. So, shouldn't you show me some gratitude?" Wang Yu was speechless by Leon's retort. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Leon. It was fine if Leon didn't give him a reward, but he even asked Wang Yu for a reward. As expected, his character was very bad. However, since Wang Yu dared to ask Leon for a reward, he must have his reasons. After being rejected by Leon, Wang Yu asked with a smile, "Then, do you have a quest for me to do?" Leon glanced at the box on the ground with Xing Yali's head in it and said, "I did, but now I don't. Sorry for making you come here for nothing." "Humph." Wang Yu snorted and said as he approached Leon, "Not necessarily. I seem to have another mission on me." With every sentence she said, Wang Yu took a step forward. By the time she finished saying the word mission, Wang Yu was already standing in front of Leon. Without saying anything further, she lifted her leg and kicked Leon. As mentioned earlier, Leon and Xing Yali were both severely injured. Furthermore, Leon did not have the cross to store his divine power. At this moment, Leon could not even stand. Wang Yu's kick sent Leon tumbling to the ground. F***ck me. What are you doing? Seeing Wang Yu suddenly attack Leon, the Demon King Fungus could not help but scream. "Nonsense, of course I'm going to kill him," Wang Yu said matter-of-factly. "Why?" Devil Fungus was at a loss. He had no idea why Wang Yu was doing this. Wang Yu kicked Leon, who was rolling on the ground, and said righteously, "Who told him not to give me a reward?" Hearing this, the Demon King Fungus almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Yes, this reason was indeed powerful. Just now, because Xing Yali did not give him a reward, he killed Xing Yali without a second word. Now, because Leon did not give him a reward, he started to attack Leon. Just how cruel was the personality of this fellow who killed his superiors and subordinates, and would attack without saying a word. No wonder the world of Windcloud and the others saw this guy as if they had seen the god of plague. Damn, this guy was inhumane. Thinking of this, the Demon King Fungus trembled and hurriedly took a few steps back, distancing himself from Wang Yu. He could not afford to offend him. Of course, the reason why Wang Yu attacked Leon was mainly because Wang Yu still had a mission to kill Leon. Although Xing Yali had a pretentious expression on her face and expressed that she wouldn't give any rewards, things like quest rewards weren't completely dependent on the quest's NPC. Otherwise, wouldn't this quest be meaningless? Since Leon said he had a mission, it was obvious that the final mission reward would be with Leon. In other words, there were two ways to complete this mission. 1. Accept the mission from Leon and use the cross as a stepping stone to kill Xing Yali, then come back to receive the reward. 2. Accept the mission from Xing Yali and use Xing Yali's head as a stepping stone to kill Leon, then come back to receive the reward. In short, with the degree of freedom in Rebirth, these two strategies could be successful, but the difficulty was different. Although Leon did not have much combat power at the moment, the HP of a level 200 boss was not to be underestimated. With more than 100 million HP, even with Wang Yu's heavy attacks, it took a long time for Leon to turn into a white light and die. Pada. After Leon died, a dirty notebook fell to the ground. Wang Yu picked it up and glanced at it. It was the hermit's lost notebook that he needed to find in his mission. That's it. After picking up the notebook, Wang Yu did not feel any sense of accomplishment. Instead, he suddenly felt a sense of guilt. Logically speaking, the difficulty of a job skill mission should not be too high. However, as a martial arts scholar, Wang Yu had always had a harder time than others, be it changing his job or awakening. But this time, the mission was for Wang Yu to kill 2 powerless bosses. Although the Divine Demon Fortress was filled with high-level monsters, compared to previous missions, this was a little too easy. Just as Wang Yu was feeling puzzled, the system gave him another notification. Damn you! Seeing the system notification, Wang Yu was stunned for a moment, then cursed. System notification: you have killed the commander of the Dark Faction, Leon. You will be pursued by the Dark Army in the Divine Demon Fortress. System notification: you have killed the commanders of the Light and Dark Factions in the Divine Demon Fortress. Neutral Faction Reputation Points plus 200, Neutral Faction Honor Points plus 200. You will be pursued by the Light and Dark Alliance Army in the Divine Demon Fortress. System notification: after the death of the player, the mission item, Hermit's Lost Notebook, has a 100% chance of dropping, and the mission has failed. It cannot be accepted again. Teleportation tools cannot be used in the Divine Demon Fortress. F***CK. No wonder this mission was not difficult at all. So this was the most difficult part. Even the game designers did not know how many monsters there were in the Divine Demon Fortress. Just the pursuit of the Light Army was already too much for Wang Yu to handle. At this moment, the hatred of the 2 armies was all on Wang Yu, and Wang Yu had become a real street rat. Quick! Quick! After coming to his senses, Wang Yu pulled the Demon King Fungus and ran out of the Divine Palace. After all, it would take time for the Dark Army to gather. The 2 of them still had a chance while there were only monsters from the Light Army outside. Otherwise, even Wang Yu would have a hard time breaking out of this tight encirclement. But when Wang Yu brought the Demon King Fungus to the entrance of the Darkness Divine Palace, the 2 of them were instantly dumbfounded. As they had been delayed in the Darkness Divine Palace for too long, the Light Army that had been pursuing Wang Yu had already gathered. At this moment, they had surrounded the Darkness Divine Palace in layers. Chapter 1188. Seeing this, Wang Yu hurriedly pulled the Demon King Fungus back into the temple. What a joke! Let alone so many level 100 high-level monsters, even if it was a level 1 wild dog, Wang Yu would be healed by so many of them. Under such circumstances, he did not dare to force his way in. He could only hide in the temple's safe zone. What do we do now? After seeing the situation outside, the Demon King Fungus was scared out of her wit. She had played the game for so long, but she had never seen so many monsters. Now that the outside of the temple was surrounded, the Demon King Fungus could only pin her hopes on Wang Yu. Although it was safe in the temple, they could not stay here for the rest of their lives. Wouldn't that be a disguised imprisonment? It was just a game, there was no need to I don't know either. Seeing the Demon King Fungus asking him, Wang Yu also spread his hands to express his helplessness. After all, Wang Yu always liked to solve problems with violence. Wang Yu rarely thought about such things that used his brain. At this time, facing so many pursuers outside, Wang Yu naturally did not have any good ideas. Under normal circumstances, if Wang Yu was targeted by NPCs, she could still put on her mask and hide her identity to escape. However, right now Wang Yu's aggro was enforced. If she wanted these pursuers to leave, the only way was to transfer the aggro to someone else. Right, transfer aggro. Thinking of this, Wang Yu was delighted and quickly said, Don't you have a mouse? Lead these guys away. Lead? The Demon King Fungus pointed to the endless pursuers outside and said, "The mouse's time limit is only 5 minutes. How far can it lead these guys in 5 minutes?" Indeed, judging from the scale of the pursuers outside, a mere 5 minutes would at most make these monsters turn around. At that time, the monster's strength would increase by 20%, and it would be even more difficult to deal with them. If it's only 5 minutes to lead them away, what if it's a different target? Wang Yu touched his chin and looked up and down at the Demon King Fungus. Hearing this, the Demon King Fungus trembled and quickly shouted, "Don't even think about it!" Only God knew how much hatred these monsters had for Wang Yu. If he only died once, it would be fine. He did not lack that bit of EXP. However, if these monsters were determined to hunt him down and kill him 100 times, wouldn't that be a huge loss? The customs of the City of Sin were most likely influenced by the monsters here. "What are you thinking about?" Wang Yu casually patted Demon King Fungus' head and said, "Nyogu, am I the kind of person who would betray a friend?" Demon King Fungus covered his head, squinted at Wang Yu and asked, "Then how do you want to change the target?" At this time, Wang Yu took out Hermit's notebook and handed it to Devil King Fungus. "Take this book." "This? What does this mean?" Devil King Fungus was confused. Wang Yu explained, "My target is this book, and the monsters outside are targeting me. If I die, the book will drop. Now I will transfer my target, the book, to you, and then I will go out and lead the monsters away. Their hatred is now on me, and you take the opportunity to escape, understand?" Wang Yu's tongue twister made the Demon King Fungus confused. After being stunned for a while, he took the book and said, "I think I understand it a little. Anyway, I'll just take the book back to the city later." "You are worth teaching." Wang Yu nodded with satisfaction, then stood up and walked out of the temple. "Wait." At this time, Devil King Fungus stopped Wang Yu again. "Why? Is there anything else you don't understand?" Wang Yu turned his head and asked. "No." Devil King Fungus blushed and handed the remaining clockwork rat to Wang Yu. "Take this thing. Although 5 minutes is not a lot, at least it can help you last a little longer." "Thanks." Wang Yu did not stand on ceremony with Devil King Fungus. He took the clockwork rat and put it in his bag, then hung the red scarf and walked out of the temple resolutely. Devil King Fungus looked at Wang Yu's back and whispered, "See you in the city." After hiding in the temple for a while, the number of monsters outside increased. Fortunately, the number of monsters was no longer increasing. It seemed that the system had a bottom line. At least it was not shameless to the extent that it could make people angry. As soon as Wang Yu walked out of the temple, the monsters who were ready to attack all glared at him. Suddenly, Wang Yu felt thousands of hateful gazes. Not only did Wang Yu not feel depressed, but he also felt a sense of accomplishment after provoking so many powerful enemies for a mission. No wonder those guys in Chuanjin were so fearful of Wuji. It turned out that it felt good to be the public enemy of the world. Of course, now was not the time to be complacent. After leaving the temple, Wang Yu spread his wings and flew into the sky without saying anything. Seeing that Wang Yu was about to fly away, the pursuers on the ground did not want to be outdone. They spread their wings and flew into the sky. In an instant, the whole sky darkened. There was a saying from Zhuangzi, "Fly in anger, wings like clouds in the sky." It was definitely a description of the current scene. After flying into the sky, without the protection of the temple, the monsters swarmed in from all directions. Wang Yu smiled slightly when he saw this. His figure flashed, and his whole body descended 5 meters. Then, he swooped down. Relying on the invincibility period, he withstood the layers of attacks and rushed out of the encirclement of the pursuers. Countless pursuers could not slow down in time. They fell into the air and collided with each other. It was a mess. Then, Wang Yu spread his wings and flew straight to the temple on the ground, while the pursuers were in chaos. These pursuers were brainless system AI. Now, there was only one command in their minds: to hate the target. Therefore, after the chaos, they quickly reorganized their formation and chased from top to bottom. In a few breaths, the pursuers followed closely behind Wang Yu and flew to the roof of the temple. Wang Yu was not in a hurry. He led the soldiers who were chasing after him and circled around the divine temple. It was proven that the person being chased always had the initiative in the direction. When one's speed was not as fast as the pursuers, it was definitely more useful to circle around the building than to rush forward brainlessly. Due to the large number of pursuers, they would instinctively form into columns when they were circling around the buildings. Now that the pursuers behind Wang Yu were stretched out, they were like a thick, gluttonous snake. When Wang Yu circled around the temple, the gluttonous snake behind him only turned slightly. Wang Yu lowered his body again, and the gluttonous snake's head hit the snake's body. It was a mess again. Hee hee. Wang Yu chuckled, folded the wings behind him, and landed firmly on the ground with thunder steps. After breaking up the encirclement of the pursuers, the mythical fortress could be said to be flat. Without saying a word, Wang Yu activated his qin gong and disappeared without a trace with the countless pursuers behind him. Chapter 1189. Wang Yu's movement speed bonus was much higher than his flight speed bonus. Hence, when he ran, there was only one word to describe it: fast. Just now, Wang Yu was almost surrounded by the monsters from the light faction. The main reason was that the monsters came from all directions. No matter how fast Wang Yu ran, he would not be able to escape from a circle of monsters. Now, all the monsters were gathered together. Although it looked quite scary, on the other hand, it made it much easier for Wang Yu to escape. One had to know that Wang Yu's running speed was faster than the monsters chasing after him. Now that the monsters were all gathered together behind Wang Yu, they could not surround him. As a result, they had basically lost their advantage in numbers. Because of this, Wang Yu was running for his life, and the monsters chasing after Wang Yu could only eat dirt. As the monsters were all behind him, there were no enemies in front of him. Wang Yu also did not have to jump up and down, and the consumption of his movement skill was reduced to a minimum. Under Wang Yu's lead, the group of monsters got further and further away from the exit. After a few minutes, they had probably left the divine fortress with the Devil King Fungus. Wang Yu led the pursuers and made a big turn, turning around and running towards the entrance of the supply route. After all, Wang Yu was now level 60. 10% of his experience was not a small amount. If he could not die, Wang Yu would definitely not give up on his last hope of survival. Just now, Wang Yu's goal was to lure these monsters away. Therefore, when she ran, she only wanted to follow her pursuers. Therefore, she did not unleash her full speed. Now, Wang Yu's goal was to shake off her pursuers. Therefore, she unleashed her full speed. Not long after, she had shaken off her pursuers. Of course, the consumption of movement skill was also very significant. When Wang Yu was about to reach the entrance of the supply route, his movement skill was almost depleted. However, at this moment, a group of people appeared in front of Wang Yu. Damn! Why are there more monsters in front of me? Seeing the figure blocking the road in front of him, Wang Yu thought that it was the monsters chasing after him. He couldn't help but be shocked. Just when Wang Yu thought he was done for, a shout came from the opposite side, "He's Iron Ox." Only then did Wang Yu react. It turned out that the people blocking their path were actually players. As long as it's a player. Wang Yu breathed a sigh of relief when he learned that it wasn't a monster blocking his path. Just as he was about to walk over, however, Wang Yu suddenly felt the killing intent of the opposing player. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu stopped and took a few steps back. Shwa shwa shwa. At the same time, rows and rows of arrows flew like flying yellow arrows, landing where Wang Yu had been standing. Seeing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but feel shocked and angry. He also realized the goal of this group of people. Damn it, could it be that he had just escaped from the tiger's mouth and entered the wolf's den? With the temperament of the City of Sin players, it wasn't strange for them to take advantage of the situation. Thinking up to this point, Wang Yu couldn't help but frown and shout at the other side, "Everyone, what is the meaning of this?" As expected, hearing Wang Yu's words, Red Wolf walked out of the crowd with a smile and replied, "Nothing much, I just want Boss Iron Ox to leave some money for the road." "It's you?" Wang Yu had just met Red Wolf not long ago, so he naturally recognized him. After seeing Red Wolf, Wang Yu immediately understood. So these players were recruited by the Wild Wolf group. No wonder Wuji often said that good things should be done and bad things should be done to an extreme. He didn't think that after he let these bastards go, these bastards would turn around and cause trouble for him. "Isn't it me?" Red Wolf smiled proudly and said, "Boss Iron Ox, we meet again." Seeing Red Wolf's expression, Wang Yu's face darkened as he asked, "You still dare to appear in front of me? Was the lesson I gave you not enough?" "Enough, enough, how could it not be enough?" Red Wolf pretended to be afraid and shrank back. Then, he stood up straight and smiled provocatively, "Look at how many people I brought. Do I look like someone who doesn't learn from his mistakes?" Red Wolf's meaning was clear. "I can't beat you with 10 people, and now there are thousands of people. I don't believe that you can kill all of them." Wang Yu glanced at the countless players behind Red Wolf and snorted coldly, "Do you think you can stop me with just you?" "We don't dare. We don't dare." Red Wolf smiled and snapped his fingers. Then, Banana Wolf and Grey Wolf walked out of the crowd with a person between them. That person's short stature was suspended in mid-air like a corgi being held by the back of his neck. When he saw Wang Yu looking over, he struggled and kicked a few times with his 2 short legs to hide his embarrassment. This scene was so similar. The player who was being carried was the Demon King Fungus. "I'm sorry." The Demon King Fungus saw Wang Yu and lowered his head in embarrassment. Wang Yu face-bombed and broke down. "Why were you captured by them?" Hee. Without waiting for the Demon King Fungus to answer, Red Wolf laughed and said, "Do you know that we've been waiting for you here for a long time?" This was not because Red Wolf and the others were smart enough to know that Wang Yu would come back sooner or later, so they chose to wait for him. It was because there were too many monsters in the Divine Fortress. Red Wolf's group was a big target, and they really couldn't break in. They had no choice but to wait here. They didn't expect that they would really wait for Wang Yu and the Demon King Fungus to come back. With Wang Yu's ability, although it was not exaggerated to fight thousands of people alone, if Wang Yu wanted to escape, he could come and go freely even if he faced the masters of the major guilds, let alone this group of hooligans. However, the Demon King Fungus was now in the hands of Red Wolf and the others. In the game, a life was naturally far less valuable than equipment. However, if the Demon King Fungus died, the mission items on him would definitely drop. Wouldn't that not be a loss? Moreover, the pursuers behind were getting closer and closer. Even if Wang Yu had the ability to save the Demon King Fungus in the midst of thousands of enemies, the pursuers behind would not give him the time. After thinking for a while, Wang Yu took out a money bag and said to Red Wolf, "Okay, I admit defeat this time. Take this 10,000 gold and let my friend go." Although the exchange rate of gold coins was getting lower and lower, 10,000 gold was not a small amount. It was definitely worth it to spend so much money to buy a life in the game. 10,000 gold? However, Red Wolf did not even look at the money bag in Wang Yu's hand. He did not buy it. Instead, he said sarcastically, "We have so many people this time. 10,000 gold is less than 1 gold coin for each person. Do you think I'm a beggar? Then how much time do you think?" Seeing Red Wolf like this, Wang Yu also put away his good temper, stuffed the money bag back into the bag, and asked coldly, "Not much." Red Wolf looked at Wang Yu and said, "Leave all the equipment on you. Save us the trouble of doing it ourselves." Chapter 1190. In the game, equipment was always more valuable than life. The meaning of Red Wolf's words was clear. If Wang Yu refused to compromise, they would use Sinner City's unique skill, pulling him into the resurrection point to kill him. Of course, it was wishful thinking for these small fries to kill Wang Yu, but it was easy for them to kill the white devil fungus. A dragon in the shallows would be toyed with by prawns, and a tiger in the plains would be bullied by dogs. Wang Yu had seen a lot of things, but this was the first time he was threatened by a group of hooligans. The devil fungus life could not be handed over to this group of people. As for Wang Yu's equipment, it was even more impossible to hand it over. At this time, the devil fungus was also anxious. She quickly private messaged Wang Yu, "Don't listen to him. Don't give him the equipment." "I know." Wang Yu replied with certainty, "Are you afraid of death?" "I'm not afraid of dying once," the devil fungus replied. Obviously, she was also afraid of being dragged into the resurrection point. One had to know that this chick had just escaped from death once. "Don't worry," Wang Yu said calmly, "if you die, I'll make sure all of them die with you." After saying that, Wang Yu walked towards the City of Sinners players step by step. Seeing that Wang Yu walked over without saying anything, Red Wolf thought that Wang Yu was really intimidated by him. He smiled and said, "I knew it. A wise man submits to circumstances. It would have been better if you had done this earlier. It would have saved us a lot of trouble." "That makes sense." Wang Yu smiled and nodded. Just as Wang Yu was about 10 meters away from the Devil King fungus, Wang Yu suddenly stomped on the ground and leaped into the air, charging in the direction of the Wild Wolf Regiment with extreme speed. F***ck, not good. When Red Wolf saw Wang Yu suddenly rushing into the formation, he immediately understood Wang Yu's intention to snatch the person. The Demon King fungus was the bargaining chip of Red Wolf and others. Red Wolf naturally wouldn't let Wang Yu snatch it away, let alone let the Demon King fungus die easily, so he hurriedly shouted, "Quickly pull that chick to the back." Hearing this, Banana Wolf and Big White Wolf immediately grabbed the devil fungus and hid behind the crowd. At this moment, Wang Yu arrived in front of the City of Sin players. "Stop him. Otherwise, no one will get a share of the equipment," Red Wolf shouted, pointing at Wang Yu as he gave orders to the players behind him. With the equipment as a bargaining chip, these money-minded bastards from the City of Sin were very motivated. Before Wang Yu could catch up to the Demon King fungus, a group of tanks blocked the path between the Demon King fungus and Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled and stepped in the air. His body once again rose by a few meters, then his feet stepped in the air again. He used the last of his agility to activate quadruple leap, leaping over the group of tanks and flying above the Demon King fungus. "Quick, shoot him." At that time, the various robber groups from the City of Sin also gave orders to the archers and mages behind them. They weren't afraid of killing Wang Yu. After all, Wang Yu dared to rush so many people for the Demon King fungus. As long as she had the Demon King fungus, they weren't afraid that Wang Yu would leave her behind. Swoosh swoosh. A sky full of arrows once again flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and immediately activated Thunder Stomp. Boom! Wang Yu descended from the sky and stomped the Demon King fungus into a white light. When he landed, a circle of lightning spread out. Wherever the lightning went, a large number of the City of Sin players surrounding the Demon King fungus died. This motley crew couldn't compare to the real experts. If it was the players from the big guilds, Wang Yu wouldn't have been able to instantly kill so many tanks. Pada! After the Demon King fungus died, the hermit's notebook on its body fell to the ground. Wang Yu casually waved his hand and used cloud-grasping fist to grab the notebook. At the same time, the surrounding City of Sin players also pounced forward. Wang Yu didn't panic. His figure flashed and appeared above the crowd. He held both hands and flew steadily in the air. Foo 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 foo! Now that Wang Yu had killed the Devil King fungus, the Red Wolf lost the bait to threaten Wang Yu. He immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He pointed at Wang Yu and shouted, "Don't run if you have the guts! Everyone, kill him!" Ha ha! Wang Yu laughed and took out an item from his bag. He threw it over and said, "It's not easy for you guys to block this place. This thing is for you." Red Wolf was stunned. He caught the item that Wang Yu threw over and looked at it. He saw a small mouse lying on his palm and sniffing around. F***ck. Red Wolf was furious and threw the mouse to the ground. Pooh! The mouse turned into a cloud of smoke and merged with Red Wolf's body. Wang Yu flapped her wings and flew over the heads of the City of Sin players. She dove into the supply line and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Rumble! Red Wolf was about to give the order to give chase when the ground suddenly began to tremble. Immediately after, the sky above the demonic god fortress darkened. As far as the eye could see, there was a dark mass of unknown creatures flying toward the supply route. What's that? Seeing this scene, the City of Sin players were shocked. Then, the archers with the best eyesight looked over. When they saw what it was, they were shocked and cried out, Not good, it's a monster." Monster? When everyone heard this, they immediately felt a chill from their scalps to their heels. Meow, the City of Sin players had seen how fierce the monsters in the demonic god fortress were. Just now, the few monsters at the entrance were enough to make everyone busy for a while. Now, there was a sea of them that covered the sky. The City of Sin players had always harmed others to benefit themselves. Moreover, this motley crew was made up of countless small groups and did not have the slightest bit of organization or discipline. Now that Wang Yu had run away and the Devil King Fungus was dead, everyone had already given up. When they saw the monsters flying over, how could they fight back? Without another word, everyone rushed into the supply route like a swarm of bees. The supply route was only a few meters wide. At most, 2 or 3 people could pass through it side by side. Once there were too many people, they would immediately bump into each other and become a mess. In the game, there were many people who took advantage of the chaos to rob others, not to mention these lowly bastards from the City of Sin. These people lived in the same city, robbing others made them enemies. In their line of work, it was normal for them to make enemies. Now that the situation was chaotic, everyone knew that they couldn't escape. As such, they began to defend themselves and take revenge. In any case, if they couldn't escape, they couldn't escape either. In an instant, there were countless people who were squeezed to death, trampled to death, or killed by sneak attack. White lights lit up in the City of Sin players. Seeing the group of monsters getting closer and closer, Red Wolf gritted his teeth and ordered his subordinates to open up a path. The Wild Wolf group was worthy of being called the most evil group of people in the City of Sin. Everyone saw each other all the time and they were always sneaky. This group of people directly started killing people in the open. The mages used AoE spells to pave the way, and the warriors used charge to clear the obstacles. The Wild Wolf group broke through the encirclement and entered the supply route. Chapter 1191. Before the monsters of the Divine Demon Fortress slaughtered the players of Sin City, Wang Yu had already flown into the supply route. After entering the supply route, Wang Yu was afraid that Red Wolf and the others would also leave through the supply route. Therefore, Wang Yu was not in a hurry to return to the city. Instead, he blocked the supply route, intending to hold off 10,000 enemies by himself. The narrow space of the supply route could only allow 2 players to pass through side by side. No formation would be able to separate them. In such a terrain, Wang Yu was confident that he could kill every player in Sin City by himself. That's right, Wang Yu was a man of his word. If he said that he wanted everyone to die with the Demon King Fungus, then he had to make everyone die with it. However, as Wang Yu blocked the supply route, chaos erupted in the fortress. Immediately after, the Red Wolves led the Feral Wolves into the supply route. Wang Yu was overjoyed. Just as he was about to attack, the monsters of the Divine Demon Fortress entered the supply route. The Feral Wolves were only a dozen meters away from Wang Yu. If Wang Yu wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. However, when Wang Yu saw the Feral Wolves, he slowed down. He did not expect these monsters to have such powerful aggro. They had actually chased him into the supply route. Wang Yu was slightly stunned. Immediately, he took out a return scroll and tore it. He then transformed into a streak of light and disappeared from the feral wolves' sight. It could not be helped. Whether it was in Rebirth or other games, the aggro of monsters was always transferable. Moreover, it was always transferred to the nearest monster. Even if it was a common monster, after its aggro was killed, it would automatically attack the nearest monster. Not to mention, the Red Wolf's aggro had been transferred from Wang Yu. If Wang Yu killed the feral wolves now, wouldn't he become the monster's next target? After being chased by these brainless monsters for so long, Wang Yu was thoroughly annoyed. He absolutely did not want to be chased a second time. 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Chuanjin could take revenge from dawn to dusk. As the saying goes, the future is long. Naturally, he was not in a hurry to settle his grudge with the Wild Wolf Regiment right now. Moreover, the reason why Wang Yu used the teleportation scroll in front of Red Wolf and the others was also for a purpose. After mixing with the people of Chuanjin for so long, he did not learn sinister and cunning, but Wang Yu's black-bellied character had awakened a lot. Since these monsters were able to chase the Red Wolf into the food path, it could be seen that their hatred was of the type that would not rest until one of them was dead. If the Red Wolf were to teleport back to the city now, Sure enough, when Red Wolf saw Wang Yu suddenly vanish into thin air, he immediately reacted. Once he left Divine Fortress, he could use a transmission tool. In this situation, escaping was the most important thing. Red Wolf did not think too much about it and shouted, "City Return Scroll? Return Scroll." Rebirth was a point-and-click game, and traveling back and forth to level up took up a lot of time. Therefore, most players would at least have a city return scroll in case they needed it. Hearing Red Wolf's shout, the members of the Wild Wolf Guild hurriedly took out city return scrolls from their backpacks and tore them in half. In an instant, a white light enveloped the members of the Wild Wolf Guild. In the next moment, Red Wolf and the others appeared at the teleportation point of the City of Sinners. F***CK. You scared me to death. Seeing that they had finally escaped the monster's pursuit, the members of the Wild Wolf Guild patted their chests and let out a long sigh of relief. After they calmed down, the members of the Wild Wolf Guild shouted, "Let's go and have a drink to calm down. Big Red is treating us. No objections, right?" "No objections. No objections." Red Wolf wiped his sweat and nodded. What a joke. They had almost died just now. If they dared to have any objections now, they would be beaten to death. As they spoke, the members of the Wild Wolf Guild walked out of the teleportation point. They had only taken a few steps when they suddenly heard a familiar line from behind. "Are you guys going to leave just like that? Don't you have to pay for the passage?" Hearing this, Red Wolf and the others were delighted. In the City of Sinners, they were the only ones who asked for money. Who would dare to ask for money from them? Thus, they turned around and cursed, F***CK. You're not going. Before they could finish their words, they saw Wang Yu smiling at them. At that moment, everyone's scalps went numb and they swallowed the rest of their words. The members of the Wild Wolf Guild had personally experienced Wang Yu's abilities. Even with so many of them, he had not been injured at all, let alone the few of them. Red Wolf's voice trembled as he said, It's you. That's right, it's me." The corners of Wang Yu's mouth curled up, revealing an expression that was not a smile. Seeing Wang Yu's strange expression, Red Wolf felt a chill down his spine. He said in fear, What are you trying to do? Don't be afraid, I'm just collecting some interest first." As he spoke, Wang Yu had already rushed towards Red Wolf. Seeing this, Red Wolf raised the weapon in his hand to block. However, Wang Yu flipped his hand and poked Red Wolf's wrist. After being poked by Wang Yu, Red Wolf instinctively let go of his hand. Wang Yu grabbed his staff and pulled it down. Red Wolf's staff fell into Wang Yu's hand. At the same time, Wang Yu's other hand had already reached in front of Red Wolf's eyes and slapped Red Wolf's head. Red Wolf did not even make a sound before he was slapped into a white light. After killing Red Wolf, Wang Yu casually threw the staff into his bag, turned around, and suddenly stretched out both of his hands. At that moment, the two assassins were pulled out of thin air by Wang Yu and pulled in front of him. After the two assassins were pulled out by Wang Yu, their faces were full of confusion. Hee. Wang Yu smiled slightly and pinched the two assassins' wrists that were holding daggers with both hands, exerting force at the same time. The two assassins could not hold the daggers in their hands after being pinched by Wang Yu like this. Immediately after, Wang Yu took a step forward and activated Iron Mountain Backrest. His broad shoulders slammed into the two assassins. Bang bang! The two assassins were killed on the spot by Wang Yu. Wang Yu reached down with both hands and two daggers also fell into his hand. Seeing Wang Yu's methods, the other members of the Wild Wolf Regiment were dumbfounded. From the time Wang Yu snatched the weapons to the time when Red Wolf and the other two were killed, only a few seconds had passed. Before the others could even react, Red Wolf and the other two had already passed away. Not to mention that Red Wolf and the other two were already strong. Even if they were experts, they would not be able to kill them so quickly. They were really human. What was even more terrifying was that before Wang Yu killed them, he also took away the weapons of Red Wolf and the others. Damn, what do you mean by there is always someone stronger than you? What do you mean by there is always someone stronger than you? When the Wild Wolf Regiment raided houses, they always relied on intimidation. If they met someone who resisted, they would just tie them up and throw them into the resurrection point. This was a stupid method that wasted time and did not have a high degree of safety. However, Wang Yu had only stretched out his hand and easily snatched away Red Wolf's weapons. Just this level of skill alone far surpassed all the players in the city of Sin. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Yu was an enemy, the Wild Wolf Regiment members would have probably knelt down and kowtowed to him. What is going on? What did I just see? Chapter 1192. Oh my, the weapon is not bad. At this moment, Wang Yu glanced at the attributes of the weapons he had snatched from Red Wolf and the others and could not help but sigh. As a professional robber, the weapons in his hands would definitely not be bad. After saying that, Wang Yu's gaze landed on the others. The Wild Wolf Regiment robbed for a living. Of course they would not be unaware of the meaning behind Wang Yu's gaze. If these people dared to come out to rob, they would definitely not be afraid of death. If Wang Yu only knew how to kill people, they would definitely not be afraid. However, after seeing Wang Yu's methods of robbing people, they did not dare to be careless anymore. When they saw Wang Yu looking over, the group of people was immediately scared out of their wits. They instinctively ran into the safe zone. It had to be said that these robbers were very skilled in anti-robbery. The teleportation point was an absolute safe zone. The city of Sin was not Yu Huiqing, and the guards here would not listen to Wang Yu's commands. Even so, the remaining members of the Wild Wolf squad, who were hiding in the safe zone, looked at Wang Yu, who was outside the teleportation point, with lingering fear. They did not even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that he would break the rules of the game and barge into the safe zone to steal their items. It could not be helped. Those who had fought with Wang Yu before would instinctively feel that the rules of the system did not work on Wang Yu. As for the Wild Wolf Regiment's behavior of hiding in the safe zone, Wang Yu was not surprised at all. After all, to face him head-on in such a situation, there must be something wrong with their brains. Hee. Wang Yu laughed coldly as he looked at the Wild Wolf Regiment members who were staring at him and trembling in fear. He gave them a meaningful look, then turned around and left. Seeing Wang Yu getting further and further away, the members of the Wild Wolf Regiment were dumbfounded. He left just like that? Although they watched Wang Yu leave, the Wild Wolf Regiment was still worried. Impossible. Grey Wolf curled his lips and said confidently, "This guy is very cunning. He must be lying in ambush nearby, waiting for us to go out and rob us of our equipment. Grey Wolf's voice became louder and louder, obviously trying to hide the fear in his heart. Everyone was astounded when they heard this. At this time, Red Wolf also saw the chat history of Grey Wolf and the others in the team channel. He could not help but say, "Even if he really left, do you guys still dare to go out now?" "Nonsense, we definitely wouldn't dare." All the wolves decisively admitted defeat. "That's it," Red Wolf said disdainfully. "He probably knew that you would have the same thoughts as Big Grey, so he came to the resurrection point to block the three of us." When the wolves heard this, they couldn't help but gasp and said, "A diversion. Treacherous as expected. What should we do now? Should we go and save you?" "Don't talk nonsense. Are you here to give equipment to that grandson?" Red Wolf said disdainfully, "Let's hide in the safe zone first. I don't believe that he can block us for a day." 10 minutes later, the airship flying towards Yu Huiqing from the city of Sin rose into the sky. On the airship, Wang Yu took one last look at the land of the city of Sin. He casually took out the 2 daggers that he snatched from the wild wolves and handed them to Demon King Fungus. "These 2 daggers are not bad. I'll give them to you." After being kicked in the head by Wang Yu, Demon King Fungus was very unhappy. She pouted her lips so high that it could be tied to a donkey. Looking at the daggers that Wang Yu handed over, Demon King Fungus curled her lips and said, "Humph. You killed me this time and lost all your experience in running circles. You want to bribe me with 2 broken daggers? Do you really think that my head was stepped on by a donkey?" This little girl was still sharp-tongued. While complaining, she did not forget to secretly insult Wang Yu. However, when she took the daggers and looked at the attributes, she immediately swallowed the 100 curses that she was about to throw at Wang Yu. Demon King Fungus was the little sister of a tycoon-like world of Windcloud. It was not that she had never seen dark gold equipment before. However, this was the first time that she had met someone like Wang Yu, who would casually give away 2 dark gold daggers. Giving away 2 dark gold equipment with just 1 kick. This young man was so generous that even a rich person like Demon King Fungus was dumbfounded. Even a tycoon like Demon King Fungus could not help but want to be stepped on by Wang Yu a few more times. Of course, the reason why Wang Yu gave these 2 daggers to Demon King Fungus was not only because he felt guilty for killing Demon King Fungus, but also because the black crystal that Demon King Fungus gave to Wang Yu was too precious. Although Demon King Fungus gave the black crystal to Wang Yu as mercenary fees, that was because Demon King Fungus did not know the value of the black crystal. As the saying goes, one should not accept an undeserved reward. The Demon King Fungus had eyes but could not see, but Wang Yu was not blind. Wang Yu naturally did not dare to accept such a big gift from the Demon King Fungus. Now that he had given the 2 daggers to the Demon King Fungus, it could be considered as a return of the gift. It would save him the trouble of being entangled with the Demon King Fungus in the future. As the saying goes, a gentleman should be careful when he is alone. Why was Zhang Wuji called a scumbag? It was because this kid was not as sensible as Wang Yu. After coming to his senses, Demon King Fungus asked in surprise, "F***CK, where did you get these 2 daggers?" Wang Yu glanced at the surprised Demon King Fungus and said faintly, "When I came back just now, I snatched it from the Wild Wolf Regiment." TSK. You're really awesome, aren't you?" The Devil King Fungus once again gasped in admiration. He stole someone else's equipment and still looked so calm. Even the word awesome couldn't be used to describe him. Wang Yu glared at Demon King Fungus. "Brat, can you speak properly?" Seeing Wang Yu put on a stern face, the Demon King Mushroom quickly chuckled and changed the topic. "Motherf***, the Wild Wolf Group is a group of bastards. Sooner or later, I will bring people back to kill them 8 or 10 times over." Wang Yu smiled and said, "I'm afraid you won't have the chance." "Why?" Demon King Fungus was confused. Wang Yu looked down at the ground, then said indifferently, because we don't know if the City of Sin will still exist in the future. Demon King Fungus was even more confused. At this time, a system announcement appeared above the sky. Announcement: due to a mysterious player killing the garrison commander of the Divine Demon Fortress, the monsters in the Divine Demon Fortress have rioted. In 5 minutes, the Light and Dark Alliance will attack the City of Sin. The peace of the Land of Rebirth for thousands of years will be broken. This day will be remembered in history. The announcement was repeated 3 times and resounded above the game. Seeing the content of the announcement, all the players in the game were excited. F***CK, monsters attacking the city. The City of Sin is so lucky. I'm so envious. When will the monsters attack us? In an instant, all the speakers in the world were blasted as if they were free. All of them were expressing their envy for the City of Sin. After all, since ancient times, the monsters attacking the city in the game was one of the biggest scenes in the game. The mighty monsters under the leadership of the bosses would attack the main cities of the humans. Chapter 1193. King Fungus was a smart kid. After seeing the system announcement, he immediately guessed that it had something to do with Wang Yu, so he asked in shock, "What's going on with the monsters attacking the city?" Wang Yu laughed evilly. "I transferred the aggro of the monsters in the Divine Demon Fortress to the wild wolves. The aggro of the monsters in the Divine Demon Fortress was all on the red wolf. If the red wolves were killed in the supply route, this would be the end of the matter. However, the red wolves thought themselves clever and followed Wang Yu back to the city, naturally bringing the aggro of the monsters into the city." King Fungus was startled, then he shook his head and sighed. This time, Sinner's City is completely finished. Level 100 monsters attacking a main city where the average player level was 50, there was no suspense at all. Not to mention, the City of Sin's players didn't even have a proper guild. Normally, they were like a plate of loose sand. Now that the monsters were attacking the city, they knew that they wouldn't be able to take advantage of the situation. So, they immediately logged off, hid, and surrendered the city. "You're really ruthless. You even destroyed their base." King Fungus clenched his fists, his words full of respect. "Of course." Wang Yu laughed, "We have to be trustworthy. If we say we'll kill their whole family, we'll kill their whole family." King Fungus. Sinner's City was quite far from Yuhuiqing. When the airship flew to Yuhuiqing, it was already afternoon. King Fungus parted ways with Wang Yu at the port and returned to the city alone. Wang Yu also came to the alley to hand in his quest. Hermit's face was still as annoying as before. When he saw Wang Yu return, he took the initiative to greet him. "You're back so soon. How was it? Did you see Xingyali?" "Oh, I saw her." Wang Yu nodded. "Is she okay?" Hermit asked. Facing Hermit's question, Wang Yu thought about it and finally told the truth. "She's dead." "Dead?" When Hermit heard this, a trace of sorrow flashed in his eyes. He then sighed and said, "Sigh. That year, I left in a hurry and didn't get to see her for the last time. I only left a book for Leon to pass to him. I didn't expect to hear news of her again." But Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and listened to Hermit's gossip with relish. However, Hermit suddenly stopped and changed the topic. "Did you bring it?" "I've brought it." Wang Yu saw that there was no gossip to listen to, so he took out the quest item and handed it over with a smile. Hermit took the quest item, flipped open the cover, and started explaining it to Wang Yu. The explanation process was actually just a cutscene animation, so Wang Yu didn't really understand it. However, after the cutscene animation, Wang Yu received a notification. "You have learned the Qigong Ultimate Skill Defense. Condensed Aura into Weapon. You have been guided by your mentor and mastered it. Your skill, Flash Shadow Chain Kick, has been upgraded to Destruction. Flash Shadow Chain Kick. Defense. Condensed Aura into Weapon. Grandmaster of Combat's ultimate skill. Condenses inner energy into a weapon to attack the target. When a Grandmaster of Combat uses a weapon condensed from inner energy, the attack power will be greatly increased, and there is a chance to stun the enemy. Ultimacy. Defense. Once again using condensed aura into weapon, the weapon condensed from inner energy will explode and cause fatal damage to targets within 300 meters. Destruction. Flash Shadow Chain Kick. Grandmaster of Combat's ultimate skill. Performs 3 powerful kicks on the target and causes both the user and the target to fly up at the same time to deal the final fatal blow. Ultimacy. Flash Shadow Chain Kick. Grandmaster of Combat's ultimate skill. Performs 3 powerful kicks on the target and causes both the user and the target to fly up at the same time to deal the final fatal blow. This skill, after seeing the new skill's attributes, Wang Yu's face involuntarily revealed a surprised expression. Condensed aura weapon was originally a buff that increased one's attack power with a stun effect. However, with the defense attribute, it became a remote-controlled bomb. It was definitely the best weapon to win by surprise. There was no need to even mention Flash Chain Kick. This skill was famous for its damage. Now that it had the Pierce attribute, its damage increased by a large margin. With the Profound attribute, whether it was the skill's attributes or its practicality, it was much stronger than a regular ultimate skill. They were both ultimate skills, but his ultimate skills had been enhanced. This puzzled Wang Yu a little. He even felt a little uneasy. Was this a trap set up by the system? Seeing Wang Yu acting like he had never seen the world before, Hermit coldly snorted and said, "What's there to be surprised about? This skill was created by me and then passed down to others. You are my legacy disciple, so naturally, it's different from others. Otherwise, why would I let you go so far to get it?" That's true. After listening to Hermit's words, the doubts in Wang Yu's heart instantly disappeared. Indeed, the game Rebirth had always emphasized that you would only reap what you sow. After completing this mission, Wang Yu was chased around like a dog by monsters. In the end, he even lost the City of Sinners. So what if the 2 skills were slightly stronger? After obtaining the 2 skills, Wang Yu was in a good mood. When he came out of the alley, he immediately posted a screenshot of the skill's attributes to the guild channel. After staying with Chuanjin for a long time, Wang Yu had also learned to show off and attract hatred. When he was free, it was also very interesting to mock each other with this group of fellows. As expected, when the Chuanjin students saw that Wang Yu was like a tiger that had grown wings, they all complained and lamented the unfairness of the world. To place one's pride in particular, he cried bitterly, saying that he had no dignity at all even though he was also a Grandmaster of Combat. The reaction of the Chuanjin students made Wang Yu very satisfied. After fooling around, Wang Yu also posted a screenshot of the black crystal to the guild channel. After Wang Yu's screenshot, the noisy guild channel immediately quietened down. After a long time, everyone exclaimed, "Holy sh*t, old cow, is this game owned by your family? Yesterday you said that the black crystal was hard to get, and today you got it. I really wonder if your surname is Ma." "That's right. Tell us where you got this thing, or else we'll report you for using your identity as the young master of the game company to cheat." "You bunch of scum!" Seeing that the Chuanjin students were speaking as if it was true, Wang Yu was speechless. He laughed and scolded, "This thing is a reward for running circles." "Running circles? You play this too?" Everyone was stunned again. The chain of quests like running circles was too troublesome. Most expert players would not play it. They did not expect that with Wang Yu's identity, he would also play this profession. "No," Wang Yu explained, "someone ran out and gave it to me." "Tsk," the Chuanjin student said in disdain. "You even gave the black crystal to someone else? Do you think we're stupid? Why didn't anyone give it to me?" Wang Yu pondered for a while and said shamelessly, "This is a problem of personal charm. You have to find the reason from yourselves. F***ck. Everyone was depressed. Chapter 1194. The use of the black crystal was rather limited. Currently, no one had any use for something like the black crystal. The only person who could use it was Chun Xiang. Wang Yu asking Chun Xiang this question was clearly within everyone's expectations. Chun Xiang quickly said, "Not yet. I'll go to the arena now." No one expected Wang Yu to get something as rare as the black crystal so easily. Chun Xiang didn't think too much of it, so he didn't waste his time in the arena. "Okay," Wang Yu said, "the arena isn't difficult. It's easy to farm points. If everyone is together, it should be done in one night." Tsk. Old Cow's words are so tough. Everyone shook their heads and curled their lips. The arena isn't difficult. Wang Yu said this to attract hatred. No matter how bad a player's skills were, they wouldn't be any better. Moreover, the professional league was getting closer and closer. Teams from major guilds would come to the arena to practice during their free time. They might even be matched with a professional team. The strength of a professional team was incomparable to the players that Wang Yu met in the past. Only a lawless guy like Wang Yu would dare to say it wasn't difficult. "Okay, you guys go ahead. I have to go offline." Wang Yu was about to go offline. F***ck. Everyone panicked. "You're not coming?" Wang Yu raised his eyebrows and mocked. "Look at the time. I'm different from you single people. I have something to do. It's only 6 in the evening. What the F***ck do you have to do?" Everyone was confused. Recently, Wang Yu had been going offline very early. As a professional player, it was normal for him to stay up all night. Wang Yu didn't have any other work. Even if she wasn't used to staying up all night, it was normal for her to play until 10 p.m. Going offline before the sky had even darkened was too unprofessional, wasn't it? However, in the face of everyone's questioning, Wang Yu solemnly said, "A human life is at stake." He then logged out of the game. Yeah. When Wuji and the others heard this, they were stunned. Then, they reacted and a strange expression appeared on their faces. Only Yang Na said foolishly, "A life is at stake? Is something wrong? I'll log off to take a look." "Forget it." Wuji quickly grabbed Yang Na and said, "This is a matter between the two of us. A third party is not allowed to intervene." Yang Na. After he went offline, Mu Zixian was still in the game. Wang Yu washed his face and practiced 2 rounds of boxing in his bedroom. Then, he sat down at his desk and opened the game forum to broaden his horizons. At this moment, the mailbox suddenly rang. In this day and age, everything in the express delivery market has been networked. Every resident in the community had their own express mailbox. When people bought something online, if they couldn't get through to the phone, it would automatically be placed in the mailbox. Not to mention clothes and packages, even if they wanted to buy groceries, they didn't need to go to the market. It was very convenient. Mu Zixian was a person who knew how to live her life. She rarely bought groceries online unless there was an emergency. The main reason was that she couldn't choose the groceries she bought online. If she couldn't choose, would it still be called buying groceries? She was a typical housewife, so she had never used the express mailbox at home. It was strange that it suddenly rang today. Of course, in the past, it was mainly because they were poor. Mu Zixian had problems feeding Wang Yu. Naturally, she wouldn't buy things online. Now that their living standards had improved, it was reasonable to buy things online. Women were born this way. Men didn't need to talk nonsense, they just needed to pay. As everyone knew, Wang Yu was a spoiled young master. Mu Zixian rarely asked him to do these chores. However, if Wang Yu couldn't do something as simple as picking up a package, he would be retarded. After putting on his clothes, Wang Yu went out to the mailbox downstairs. After opening the mailbox, he saw 2 envelopes lying quietly in the mailbox. The 2 envelopes were heavy. On them were written, "To Yu Xian, the leader of the Motley Crowd team, and to Iron Ox, the leader of the Motley Crowd team. Looking at the sender, it turned out to be Longting Company. Longting Company? Wang Yu glanced at the sender in confusion. Then he tore open his envelope, revealing a card that seemed to be made of gold. He took out the card and looked at it. On it were the words, "Invitation," written in gold. "Dear Mr. Iron Ox, hello." It turned out to be an invitation to the professional league. Seeing that the invitation was specially sent in an envelope, it was enough to show the seriousness of the invitation. This time, the professional league was personally organized by Longting Company. The venue was in Linhai City, and the time was a week later. While Chuanzhen's group was fighting for the right to enter, the professional teams that had signed up to participate in the professional league had also begun to compete. These things were basically known by players who often paid attention to the professional team competitions online. Although Wang Yu didn't watch the competition videos, the veteran players of Chuanzhen often talked about it. Wang Yu had heard it many times and was no stranger to it. Today, after receiving this invitation, Wang Yu couldn't help but be excited. Wang Yu had also dealt with professional-level experts. There was the number 1 tank in the national server, Thunder Lord, Archer King Bloodrain, and the Grim Reaper's left hand that Chuanzhen often pulled out to whip and insult. These guys were strong, and they were no weaker than Chuanzhen. Even with the retired 12 stars, Chuanzhen's group didn't dare to guarantee that they could win. Moreover, those who could fight their way into the professional league were all experts in their prime. As a martial artist, Wang Yu's desire for PvP was actually much higher than that of ordinary people. It was just that bullying noobs in the game made Wang Yu unable to bring it up. Now that experts from all walks of life were gathered in one place, Wang Yu felt excited just thinking about it. At this time, Mu Zixian had also gone offline and was washing vegetables in the kitchen. She heard Wang Yu humming a tune as he entered the house. Mu Zixian walked out with a vegetable in one hand and asked, "What did you do? You're so happy and you didn't say anything." "I got a delivery," Wang Yu said happily. "Delivery? Did you buy anything?" "No." Wang Yu smiled, waved the invitation in front of Mu Zixian, and proudly said, "Look what this is." Mu Zixian also glanced at the card in Wang Yu's hand, rolled her eyes and said disdainfully, "I thought it was something important, an invitation. Look at your inexperienced face." Wang Yu touched his nose embarrassedly and said, "So you know what this thing is. Isn't that obvious?" Mu Zixian waved the vegetable in her hand and said, "Don't forget what I used to do. This thing is equivalent to a few VIP admission ticket." Just when Wang Yu was confused, Li Shui also happened to come out of the bedroom. Seeing the invitation in Wang Yu's hand, she couldn't help but say, "Brother, you received the invitation. Longting Company is really stingy." Chapter 1195. Stingy. Even though Wang Yu was inexperienced, he had never heard of an invitation having such a meaning. Seeing Wang Yu's expression, Mu Zixian smiled helplessly and explained, "Professional teams receive round-trip tickets, and their food and lodging are free. We only have one ticket. F***CK. Hearing Mu Zixian say this, Wang Yu finally understood. Meow, they were both contestants, but the gap was a little too big. There was a saying, "Don't worry about poverty, but worry about unfairness." Even though they were all amateurs, the difference between them and professionals was so obvious that it made people unhappy. This was blatant discrimination. But thinking about it, the slogan of the Pro League was that everyone could participate. But ask yourself whether it was the players who went to watch the competition live or the players who watched the competition at home, they were all aiming for the pro players. Other than their friends, who would care about those amateurs? Clearly, this slogan was for everyone to participate, but in reality, it was a fake business. In the end, everyone knew what the position of amateurs was. Even if amateurs went on stage, in front of these pro players, they would at most be a punching bag. They would let the pro players fight a few beautiful matches, and at the same time, let the audience have an appetite. One ticket to buy a professional sparring partner, where else could they find such a deal? But even if everyone knew this, being able to fight against pro players was also a dream for many players. If they could win a match, wouldn't they become famous? Everyone had a utilitarian heart. In general, one was willing to fight, and the other was willing to suffer. Otherwise, why would those guys at Chuanjian be so resistant to this? Only a super strong gamer like Wang Yu would take the invitation seriously and dream of winning the championship. If it were any other amateur player, they would all know what their position was. And because of this, Mu Zixian wasn't surprised at the invitation in Wang Yu's hands. Amateurs, letting you go on stage is already a blessing, don't think too much about it. Fortunately, Wang Yu was still relatively optimistic. Although he was very unhappy with the organizers' behavior of not putting amateurs in their eyes, when he thought of competing against experts, Wang Yu temporarily endured it. After all, regardless of whether they were professional players or amateurs, everyone spoke with their strength. It was only natural that they would be ignored if they were incompetent. Wasn't it just paying for their own expenses? Anyway, they didn't lack that bit of money. When selling gold coins, they could just avoid the transaction tax a few more times and earn it back. Of course, Wang Yu was not the only one who was depressed. After logging in the next day, Chuanjian's group did not seem to be in a good mood. Obviously, they had also received an invitation yesterday. The nickname of this group of bitches was, desperate to take advantage of others, rather die than suffer a loss. Being treated like this, their moods were naturally not too good. Especially Mingdu, who knocked on the table and cursed, F***ck. This Longting Company's business is so big, but they're actually so stingy that they actually sent me an invitation. To place one's pride also echoed, that's right, I'm so far away from Western Shu, and I have to ask for leave to play a match. How dare they not reimburse me for my food and accommodation? That's too much. Famous sword Daoxue even made a small abacus out of nowhere. After a series of calculations, he finally came up with the bill. Even if there are only 12 of US going, with the consumption level of Lin High City, it's still not a small amount. F***ck, I only have 50 yuan a month as pocket money. This time, thank you for your help, brothers. Next time, I'll make up for it when I earn money. Chun Xiang made a fist and palm salute to everyone bitterly. Sigh, everyone lowered their heads and sighed. No one knew whether they were mourning for the miserable brother Chun or feeling depressed because they had to pay for the match. Only Wuji looked indifferent, as if he was thinking about something. Seeing that everyone was so depressed, Wang Yu thought for a while, stood up and said, "How about this, I'm the captain of the team. How about I pay for the match this time?" The match was originally proposed by Wang Yu, and the ultimate goal was also for Wang Yu's interests. From the beginning, Wang Yu had made up his mind to pay for it himself. However, hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone said, "Old cow, what you said is a slap in our faces. Who here lacks this little money? It's just that you feel unbalanced." That's right. The team belongs to everyone. Why should Uncle Nyo pay for it himself? Then, what should we do? Wang Yu also knew that these guys would not be polite to him. Hearing everyone's words, Wang Yu was also at a loss. There was no other way. Making Chuanjian unable to take advantage of them was definitely more painful than killing them. A group of lunatics was quite scary when they were entangled. Haha, a bunch of idiots. Just as Wang Yu and the rest of the Chuanjian people were feeling indignant, Wuji suddenly laughed. "Idiot boss, do you have any objections?" Everyone retorted without holding back. Wuji ignored everyone's mockery and said calmly, "No objections, but I have a piece of news to tell you." Everyone was stunned when they heard that, then said, "Say it." Wuji smiled and said, "I just talked to a sponsor. He will pay for the match this time." Sponsor? Once Wuji said that, everyone's faces crumbled. Holding back a mouthful of blood, they said, "We're an amateur team, and there's someone sponsoring us?" Sponsors were the financial groups behind professional teams. After all, in this era where entertainment was paramount, the advertising effect of competitive stars was no lower than that of singers and movie stars. Signing professional experts to sponsor them was also a common thing. However, Chuanjin was just a motley crew. As for their reputation, there was no need to talk about it. Chuanjin's infamy was a compliment. Someone actually dared to sponsor a battle team formed by a bunch of street rats? Was this person's brain not working well? Of course. Wuji glanced at Wang Yu and said matter-of-factly, "Who asked us to have the strength? The boss said that we will definitely win this time, so he sponsored us. Meat eaters are despicable. Who has the foresight to know that we have the strength?" Everyone asked in puzzlement. Sponsors had always looked at benefits and result. It seemed that this sponsor had some professional foresight to be able to sponsor an unknown team so confidently. "Do you still need to ask?" Wuji smiled and said, "Of course it's the big boss of evildoers run wild. He said that we should not let the goodies flow into the fields of others. It's much more stable to bet on us than on others. I think it makes sense, so I agreed." Everyone was speechless for a moment. Their gazes landed on Wang Yu again, and they said meaningfully, "Nyogu, your brother is more suitable to do business than you." Chapter 1196. Needless to say, Chuanjin was a group of people who were easily satisfied. No matter who it was, as long as they could take advantage of something, they would be in a good mood. Now that someone was sponsoring Chuanjin's team, Chuanjin's unhappiness at being discriminated against by the gaming company was immediately forgotten. Seeing everyone's expression, Wuji smiled and said, "All right, the matter of the competition fee has been settled. Should we consider pre-battle preparations?" Pre-battle preparations? How do we prepare? Have any of us played in a competition before? Everyone looked at each other with a dumbfounded expression on their faces. This was the biggest difference between amateurs and professional players. In addition to high-intensity training, professional players' daily work was to study the actual combat tactics of various maps, as well as the opponent's game videos to develop countermeasures. It could be said that they were always prepared, and they could enter the state at any time during a competition. Amateurs were busy every day, leveling up and getting equipment. Although the game was fun, PvP was naturally avoided as much as possible, except for those madmen. Therefore, when it came to pre-battle preparations, even Chuanjin's group, who usually liked to play with cats and dogs, did not know where to start. "Second brother, do you know?" Wang Yu turned to ask Yin Lao Er. Yin Lao Er had been in a sports team before. Although there was a big gap between esports and table tennis, they were both sports, after all. As the saying went, no matter how much change there was, the principle was basically the same. Well, Yin Lao Er thought about it and said, "When we competed, the pre-battle preparations were to prepare for the handball, rest, and study the opponent's playing style." Makes sense. Hearing Yin Lao Er's words, everyone came to a sudden realization. It seemed that Wang Yu had asked the right person. Rest did not need to be explained. Preparing for the handball and studying the opponent's playing style were obviously to improve their equipment and strength. In terms of equipment, Chuanjin's group was not short of money. Moreover, they had been swindling and extorting for a long time. Naturally, they were overflowing with money. Moreover, professional blacksmith 345 was responsible for leveling up their equipment. Not only did they have a full set of dark gold-grade equipment, but they also had an epic equipment each. Therefore, there was not much room for improvement in terms of equipment. As for their levels, apart from Wang Yu and a few other life profession players, the average level in Chuanjin was above 55. There were less than 7 days left until the start of the competition. Based on the leveling speed of Rebirth, it would be difficult to level up within a week. Moreover, the difference in attributes was negligible, so there was no point in wasting time on leveling up. Therefore, if the members of Chuanjin wanted to improve, they could only start with actual combat and cooperation. After all, half of the people in Chuanjin were newcomers. Although they were very familiar with each other after a few months of practice, they were still far from being able to compete with professional players. After thinking for a while, Wuji suggested, "Let's not fight for the next few days. Let's get familiar with each other first. If we don't fight, how are we going to get familiar with each other? Are we going to attack the players?" Everyone questioned. "Idiot," Chun Xiang said in disdain. "Of course we're going to fight in the arena." You want us to help you get materials, right?" Everyone gave Chun Xiang a meaningful look. It was very obvious that this old fellow had very heavy selfish motive. That's right. Not only did Chun Xiang not deny it, but he also said shamelessly, "In order for everyone to have motivation, I can only sacrifice myself so that everyone can improve together with me." F***ck. Shameless. Everyone was speechless. Brother Chun is right. At this time, Wuji also said, "Fighting in the arena is a good idea, and we can also get points to exchange for materials to sell to Brother Chun. Sacrificing yourself for our Brother Chun, you really put in a lot of effort. You're worthy of being the big brother, with unquestionable integrity." Wuji emphasized on the words sell, and noble character and unquestionable integrity. After all, he was the most treacherous person in the Chuanjin sect. When he pushed Chun Xiang into the pit, he also filled it with soil, directly cutting off Chun Xiang's escape route. The others understood and immediately echoed in unison, "Brother Chun is of unquestionable integrity." F***ck. Chun Xiang fiercely pointed his middle finger at Wuji. Wuji smiled slightly and ignored it. Just as everyone was joking with Chun Xiang, Wuji noticed Wang Yu, who had not said a word, so he asked, "Why isn't Old Cow saying anything? Do you have any better suggestions?" "No." Wang Yu shook his head and said, "You guys go, I won't be going." "Why?" Hearing Wang Yu say this, the noisy crowd immediately quieted down and asked in confusion. Wang Yu was usually very sociable. Why did he suddenly want to leave the group at this time? Wang Yu smiled and said, "You guys still have room to improve, I won't be joining." Indeed, the higher one's strength, the harder it was to improve. With Wang Yu's current strength, with the standard of the arena players, even if Wang Yu went, he would only be able to bully noobs. There would be no improvement at all. Unless he reached level 80 in one go and completed the second Breakthrough Awakening quest, even if he and the people from Chuanjin fought in the arena for a month, it would be useless. Moreover, with a crushing expert like Wang Yu around, the people from Chuanjin would be like they had a main character to carry them no matter what. If Wang Yu went with them, not only would he not be able to improve, he would also affect the progress of the others. After all, professional competitions did not rely on a single person's strength. If he had the time, he might as well start from other aspects. Seeing that Wang Yu wasn't going with the others, to place one's pride was dissatisfied and said, "Uncle Nyo, if you don't go, how can we cooperate?" Humph. Wang Yu smiled and said, "It's fine as long as you guys cooperate. It's easy for me to cooperate with you guys." To place one's pride blushed. What Wang Yu said was right. It was easy to cooperate with people who were weaker than oneself. It was like playing LOL, where the expert player would fill in the gap. Of course, Chuanjin all boasted that they were experts, so Wang Yu was embarrassed to say it too directly. After all, for gaming geeks like Chuanjin, it didn't matter if you said they were retarded, but you couldn't say that they were bad at the game. But, no buts. The others still wanted to say something, but Wuji waved his hand and interrupted. "You bunch of trash, do you want Old Cow to tell the truth? Don't you know your own level? You guys are also famous experts. You should also get used to not having Old Cow to lead the way." F***ck. Everyone was depressed. Although it was the truth, saying it out like that really hurt their pride. Wang Yu laughed mischievously and gave Wuji a thumbs up and said, "I didn't say that. If you guys are unhappy, you can beat him up." When everyone heard that, they immediately glared at Wuji and clenched their fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. Wuji very skillfully squatted down in the corner, held his head and said, "Don't hit my face." Chapter 1197. Peaceful times always passed by unknowingly. 5 days later, with the hard work of everyone in Chuanjin, Chun Xiang finally gathered all the materials before the competition. It couldn't be helped. The professional league was just around the corner, and the arena was filled with high-level players who were training for the upcoming competition. Although Chuanjin's group wasn't weak, they couldn't compete with Wang Yu's efficiency. Wang Yu's 1v1 style was relatively simple, but it was more troublesome to find the opponent. With Wang Yu's strength, it wouldn't even take 10 minutes to find the opponent and kill him. If he met a straightforward opponent in the middle, Wang Yu could end the battle in less than a minute. However, group battles were far different from 1v1 battles. Not only did it require courage, but it also required fighting spirit. Sometimes, when they met an evenly matched opponent, a stalemate would take at least an hour. Everyone would only fight a dozen or so matches in a day without doing anything. With this kind of efficiency, it was already very good to gather all the materials in 5 days. In the forging workshop of Chuanjin's guild encampment, Wang Yu stood in front of an operating table. Chun Xiang's staff was placed on the operating table. Chuanjin's members surrounded Wang Yu, and some even stretched their necks to watch blacksmith Wang work. If there were no accidents, this would be the first time they saw the process of creating a godly weapon. The worst thing about using the black crystal to absorb attributes was the fear of absorbing the wrong attribute. After all, the black crystal was very expensive. Fortunately, Chun Xiang's staff only had one attribute, so they didn't have to worry about this. Wang Yu placed the staff on the operating table and opened the attribute extraction interface. He then placed the black crystal in and clicked on the extraction button. After a flash of light, Chun Xiang's staff couldn't withstand the surging mana and turned into powder. "Awesome, be careful." Seeing the staff disappear, Chun Xiang's heart almost jumped out of his chest. However, when he saw the attributes of the staff successfully extracted by the black crystal, Chun Xiang calmed down. Meow, Chun Xiang's life depended on this skill. If the staff was destroyed, Chun Xiang would have to delete his account. Wang Yu naturally knew how important this magic staff was to Chun Xiang. After completing the first step, he carefully took out the grasp of darkness and placed it on the operating table. Then he said, "Don't panic, don't panic. My hands will tremble when you're nervous. Don't fail the synthesis again." Everyone held their breath when they heard this. To be on the safe side, Wang Yu also hung the Craftsman God title above his head. Although the attributes of the God of Crafts would take effect regardless of whether Wang Yu hung up the title or not, Wang Yu still felt that it was safer. After all, items that were based on chance did not require much control. Wang Yu had to put in a lot of effort to fight. Following the system's instructions, Wang Yu placed the black crystal into the slot at the bottom after placing the materials into the material column. However, at this moment, another box suddenly appeared in the black crystal synthesis material column. System notice. You have a medium on you. Do you wish to use it? Medium? Wang Yu was slightly stunned. He quickly looked at the description of the box that had appeared. Using a medium can greatly increase the success rate of synthesis. There is also a certain chance to obtain additional attributes or mutate the synthesized attribute. Seeing this description, Wang Yu did not hesitate to use it. To Wang Yu, whether or not he could obtain a mutated attribute was not important. What was important was the success rate. Otherwise, if he lost the staff, even if Chun Xiang did not blame him, Wang Yu would feel bad. After clicking use, a black notebook appeared in the medium column. This medium was the Talon's diary, that Wang Yu had used for some unknown purpose. After adjusting his emotions, Wang Yu clicked on the synthesis button. At the same time, a dark cloud suddenly floated over the sky above Yu Huiqing. The dark cloud shrouded the sky above the Chuanjin camp, and arcs of lightning flashed. The loading bar for the equipment synthesis continued. Everyone had also noticed the strange phenomenon in the sky, so they quickly looked out. When they saw the clouds in the sky, they were instantly reminded of the scene when Wang Yu first forged the divine weapon. However, it was auspicious clouds combined with holy light that time, and dark clouds this time. 3 minutes later, the loading bar for the equipment synthesis was finally completed. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky finally condensed into a bolt of lightning. The lightning bolt penetrated the roof of the forging workshop and landed on the grip of darkness on the console. At the same time, the system announcement sounded. The sound of darkness is getting closer. The horn of war is about to sound. Player, Iron Ox, has successfully broken the seal of 10,000 years and released the eternal divine weapon of the Nephilim. Darkness has returned to the land. This moment will be remembered in history. As the system announcement sounded, the light on the console dissipated, and the new equipment was revealed. The 3 huge gems were still dazzling, but the original strange skull shape had turned into a half-moon shape. The handle of the staff was densely engraved with magic inscriptions, and a black aura flowed around the staff, attracting everyone's attention. Wang Yu wiped the sweat off his forehead and casually opened the attributes display. True Dark Phantom Moon Staff, Legendary, Attack, 300-300 Mana, 500-500 plus 50 Intelligence plus 50 Spirit plus 50 Vitality Stone of the Undead. Passive Skill, Dark Magic Proficiency plus 1 Blood Erosion. Passive Skill, Magic Attacks have a 20% lifesteal effect. Spirit of the Shadow Moon. Passive Skill, Magic Attacks will return 80% of the skill's mana. Shadow Moon Blood Spring. Active Skill, consumes life force to transform into a blood spring. In the state of Dark Blood Spring, the player's movement speed is increased by 20%. During this period, the player cannot be selected as a target. Enemies above the blood spring will have their movement speed reduced by 40% and receive magic damage. 20% of the damage to the target will be converted into the player's HP. Dark Blood Sacrifice. Active Skill, consumes life force to perform a blood sacrifice to revive one summoned unit. Summon Evil Spirit, LV3. Assimilation Mutation Active Skill, summons 10 powerful demons to assist in battle. The evil spirits have 150% of the summoner's stats. Skill level can be raised to LV3. Book of Sealing. For every level up of the summoned target, their stats will increase by 1%. The level cannot be higher than the summoner. The summoned target's level will be reset upon death. Level Requirement: 50. Profession Requirement: General Item Introduction. The Shadow Moon Staff is one of the demon race's 3 divine weapons. It was also the demon race's 5th demon lord, Moon Demon's personal weapon. On the day of Moon Demon's death, the Shadow Moon Staff was destroyed and turned into 3 undead gems. In order to reconstruct the Shadow Moon Staff, Tai Ren went through untold hardships to obtain the undead gems. However, the Shadow Moon Staff's ultimate magic is nowhere to be found. The method to reconstruct the Shadow Moon Staff is recorded in Tai Ren's diary. Chapter 1198. Divine Weapon. Seeing the attributes of the Shadow Moon Staff, the Quan Zhen players cried out in unison. Although the Grasp of Darkness was an epic equipment from the start and everyone was mentally prepared, they still could not help but cry out. This is a real divine artifact. Speaking of epic equipment, it was not like they had never seen one before. Wang Yu's cloak was one, but compared to the Shadow Moon Staff, Wang Yu's cloak's crappy attributes could not even be considered a pseudo-divine weapon. The Shadow Moon Staff was one of the 3 great divine weapons of the Dark faction. Magic mastery, lifesteal, and mana regeneration went without saying. Every one of these was an attribute that mages dreamed of. The Shadow Moon Blood Spring and Shadow Moonlight greatly increased the user's survivability and damage output. This was especially so for the summon spell that had been upgraded to the highest level. It was definitely a bug. In Rebirth's dark spell summoning system, there were souls, skeletons, and flesh from the highest to the lowest. Chun Xiang's Summon Imp was originally a top-level soul summoning spell. After assimilating Summon Skeleton and Summon Undead, this skill had mutated into the ultimate Summon Evil Spirit. The level 3 Summon Evil Spirit could summon 10 units at once, each with 150% of the summoner's attribute. With the support of the Book of Sealing, each unit at its peak would have 200% of the summoner's attribute. This was not just an increase in quantity, but also a leap in quality. It was 11 against 1. One could imagine how terrifying Chun Xiang would be when he charged around with 10 powerful underlings. It was no wonder the Warlock class was so weak in the game. It turned out that the final state of the class was so terrifying. Chun Xiang, who had endured the most bitter of hardships, could only be described as a master. Chun Xiang's current mood was self-evident after changing his slingshot. The Quan Zhen players banged their heads against the wall in pain, crying bitterly. Even Li Shui and the other life profession players were envious, wondering if they should get themselves a piece of equipment to play with. F***CK, is it too late for me to delete my account now? Uncle Neo. I don't care, you have to get me a divine artifact. To place one's pride hugged Wang Yu's thigh and refused to let go. Wang Yu shrugged helplessly. Do you think divine artifacts are cabbages? I can only say that Brother Chun is lucky. How can it not be good? He already has 2 legendary equipment. Everyone was extremely jealous of Chun Xiang. 2? Wang Yu was slightly taken aback. At this time, Chun Xiang also raised the Book of Sealing in his hand. Wang Yu had almost forgotten that the Book of Sealing in this old man's hands was also a legendary item. No wonder this guy, as a warlock, was so tyrannical in one-on-one fights. If a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. After equipping the Staff of Shadow Moon, Chun Xiang finally had a real weapon. Just as everyone was about to check out the power of Chun Xiang's new equipment, Wang Yu received a message from Evildoers Run Wild. F***CK, you got something good again. Where are you fighting the boss? Evildoers Run Wild anxiously asked. The system announcement said that Wang Yu had unsealed the divine artifact. It wasn't just Evildoers Run Wild, almost everyone thought that Wang Yu had done a divine artifact quest. Guild encampment, Wang Yu calmly replied. Evildoers Run Wild was surprised. Guild encampment? You're going back so soon? What do you mean, going back so soon? Wang Yu said. I've always been at the encampment. Then your divine artifact. I just fused it, Wang Yu answered truthfully. Evildoers Run Wild sent a row of ellipses and said after a long time, I'm going to your guild encampment now. Don't say that you fused the equipment later. Wang Yu was confused. At this time, a notification flashed in the guild channel. Wuji invites Evildoers Run Wild and Iron Ox's father to enter the guild encampment. At the same time, a light flashed at the encampment teleportation point outside the workshop, and 2 figures, one tall and one short, appeared. Wang Yu. No wonder. No wonder. If Old Cow knew that Wang Yu had gotten another divine artifact, Evildoers Run Wild would probably be exploited again. It couldn't be helped. Evildoers Run Wild couldn't beat these 2 shameless people. If he fell behind, he would be beaten up. Who else would he exploit if not him? At that time, Evildoers Run Wild could only be heard shouting, Where are they? Where the hell did they go? Come and welcome the distinguished guest. Everyone had seen the notification in the guild channel and heard evildoers run wild shout, so they quickly ran out of the workshop. Wang Yu quickly went up to greet him. "Dad, you're here?" "Hello, Uncle Wang." The others also greeted him. "Yes," Old Cow responded casually. He then looked at the people in Xuanzhen and pointed at the workshop. "What is that place?" It was a workshop. There was only one console, and the space was very small. The old man was very curious when he saw nearly 20 people in Xuanzhen coming out of such a small room. "Uncle Wang, this is..." To place one's pride hurt him, and was about to tell Old Cow that it was a workshop. Wang Yu quickly stopped to place one's pride. He then smiled and changed the topic. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Seeing Wang Yu's little action, Old Cow frowned and said, "To give money." "Give money?" Wang Yu was confused. "What money?" Old Cow stared at him. "Didn't your brother say that you guys are participating in some competition and lack sponsors?" "Oh yes." Wang Yu nodded. "I've discussed with a few masters in the Kung Fu circle and decided to sponsor you guys. Didn't your brother tell you about this?" As he said that, Old Cow looked at evildoers run wild again. Wang Yu immediately understood and then glared at evildoers run wild. Good lad, he actually used the money that originally belonged to him to be a good person. He even had the cheek to ask his own team to advertise for him. He was really sly. Evildoers run wild looked nervous. He quickly put his palms together and sent a message to Wang Yu. "Brother, my dear brother, it doesn't matter whose name it is. Don't betray me, I said it." At this time, Wuji was more tactful. He quickly came out to smooth things over. "Uncle Wang, let's go back to the house and talk." As he said that, Wuji made a gesture of invitation to the meeting hall. This was not only Wang Yu's father but also the real boss. It was reasonable for him to not let people stand in the courtyard. "It's good that you said it." Old Cow nodded. He glanced at evildoers run wild and said, "I'm afraid that this lad will do something sneaky, so I came here personally today. There's no need to sit. How many of you go and sign up first? Then, let Little Fei book tickets and hotel rooms for you." As the saying goes, no one knows a son better than his father. Old Cow really did not eat for nothing. Without waiting for Wang Yu and the others to reply, Old Cow said, "Does the sponsor have the right to let the team advertise?" "That's right," Wuji said. Chapter 1199. I have no objections. Wuji quickly said, "Of course I have no objections." The client was the Jade Emperor, after all. He was paid to do things for him. Since the Old Cow was sponsoring them, it was reasonable for him to advertise for them. Moreover, the Old Cow's requirements were not high. He only wanted them to wear clothes that he had custom-made. Since the Jade Emperor had spoken, even if the Old Cow wanted everyone to wear female clothing on stage, Wuji would have no objections. Of course, Wang Yu was the Old Cow's biological son. Naturally, the Old Cow would not make such an unreasonable request. "It's good that you have no objections. On the day of the competition, I will bring all the martial artists to cheer for you." The Old Cow nodded in satisfaction. Then, he turned his head and said to the squinting evildoers run wild, "Prepare the materials. When your brother is done with the competition, I will ask him to make equipment for me." Evildoers run wild had an innocent look on his face. "What equipment? What equipment? Don't talk nonsense with me." The Old Cow pointed at the forging workshop and said, "Do you think your father doesn't know how to play games?" Evildoers run wild's face instantly turned bitter. "Why are you relying on me?" "Nonsense," the Old Cow said angrily. "I asked you to do something, and you're playing tricks on me. Prepare the materials, and I will not pursue this matter. Otherwise, just you wait and see." After intimidating evildoers run wild, the Old Cow cupped his fists at the Xuanzhen people and said, "Thank you for your trouble. If there's nothing else, I will go and challenge the Instance Dungeon." The way the old cow spoke and did things was exactly the same as Wang Yu's. They were clean and efficient, without any hesitation. As he spoke, old cow turned around and walked into the teleportation nexus, disappearing from everyone's sight. Only the dumbfounded Quan Zhen members and evildoers run wild were left behind. To place one's pride, old cow was reluctant to leave. "You're leaving so soon. Aren't you going to sit down and have a few drinks? Drink your head." Evildoers run wild slapped to place one's pride's head and said, "If he had stayed a little longer, my workshop would have been his." "Really?" Everyone was shocked and asked Wang Yu in unison. Wang Yu fell silent. According to Wang Yu's experience as a son for more than 20 years, what evildoers run wild said was absolutely not an exaggeration. "Tsk, tsk, tsk. Wuji and the others clicked their tongues and shook their heads. "It's a pity that he didn't come to Chuanjin to develop. If he comes, I can let him take the top spot." F***ck. Wang Yu fiercely gave everyone the middle finger. It had to be said that the reason why Wang Yu could tolerate these evil people in Chuanjin was not without reason. No wonder people often said that there was no love without reason. Just as Wang Yu and the Quan Zhen members were talking nonsense, evildoers run wild forcibly interrupted them. "Alright, you guys. How many people are going?" The evildoer Heng Xing had just been extorted, so he was not in a good mood. No one dared to provoke him, so everyone quickly shut up. Wu Ji pondered for a moment before replying. "A battle team is made up of 12 people. At least 12 people will be going." "What about logistics? Are we going?" Evildoers run wild looked around and asked. "Are we going?" Wu Ji very politely asked Li Shui and the others for their opinion. "Can we go too?" Li Shui and the others were overjoyed when Wu Ji invited them to go. Even Chopper 345 looked eager. As for whether they should go or not, the answer was already very clear. After all, the girls used to be the lowest of the professional players, gold collecting members. The Pro League was a long way away from them. Let alone participating in the competition, they had never even thought about watching a live match. How could they not be excited when they heard that they had a chance to go? "If you want to go, then go. I don't care about that little bit of money," evildoers run wild mumbled, counting Li Shui and the others together. "Tsk, tsk, tsk." While mumbling, evildoers run wild shook his head and said, 11 players, 1 leader, 5 logistics, a total of 17 people. Look at the number of people in your guild. Even if you send out your entire guild, you won't be able to form a team. I'll reluctantly count myself in as a lucky number. What are you going to do?" Wang Yu was a little dissatisfied. "You're not a member of our Chuanjin guild. Be a foreign aid. Do you think I'm not strong enough?" Evildoers run wild retorted. "You're okay for now." Wang Yu did not raise any objections. Even if the evildoer rampage met an expert like Wang Yu, he would still be a long way off. However, compared to an ordinary person, he was still considered to have some skills. Wang Yu was an honest person, so naturally, he would not go against his conscience. After confirming the number of people, evildoers run wild went offline to prepare. After the members of Quan Zhen cleared the arena together, they logged off early for the first time in a while. After all, there were only 2 days left before the competition. What everyone needed to do now was to rest and recharge. According to the usual practice, the participating teams needed to familiarize themselves with the venue the day before the competition. So when they received evildoers run wild's ticket booking message, they all rushed to Linhai City. Rebirth was a game that had a huge influence on society. With the professional league around the corner, the atmosphere in the airport was different from usual. As soon as they got off the plane, Wang Yu and the others saw all kinds of young people chatting and laughing. These people were in groups of a few dozen, all wearing the same uniform with a fancy logo on it. They were obviously the legendary professional players. In comparison, Wang Yu was a little more embarrassed. With a group of girls following behind him, any normal man would want to find a hole to hide in. It was the first time Li Shui and the others were so close to professional players, so they were a little excited. Wow, it's Team Skyfire. The leader must be the legendary Samadhi True Fire. Look at that handsome guy, isn't he Red Dreams Red Beauty? Aya, isn't that 9 states 5 lakes 4 seas? I'm dying of happiness. The personalities of the girls who chased after idols were always a little strange, as if they were being sold on a multi-level marketing. The girls chattered non-stop behind her, giving Wang Yu a headache. She wished she could stuff these girls into the trash can. He thought the situation would get better once they got out of the airport, but it was even worse outside. Countless fans were blocking the exit with banners. The taxi drivers waiting for customers were drowned in the sea of people's war. This is ridiculous, Wang Yu, who had finally squeezed his way out of the fan club, could not help but break out in cold sweat. He really could not understand why there were so many obsessed fans of a game. This is nothing, Molly said as if she had seen it all too often. I've seen things that are even more exaggerated. There was one time when XX Team's XXX was tricked by a rookie during a competition. His fans were not happy about it and nearly caused a riot at the scene. In the end, even the special forces came to maintain order. TSK tisk. Wang Yu couldn't help but sigh. What do you think they'll do if they see their idol get beaten up by me? Ugh. Chapter 1200. Linhai City was located in the coastal area. Except for Mingjian Daoshua, everyone was relatively far away. Evildoers Run Wild was very considerate to buy tickets at noon. Therefore, when Wang Yu's group gathered in Linhai City, it was already evening. After dinner, the Chuanjian group came to the hotel where they were staying under the leadership of Evildoers Run Wild. It was undeniable that although Evildoers Run Wild liked to be sneaky, they would not cut corners. The hotel that Evildoers Run Wild booked was opposite the competition venue. It was a gaming-themed hotel. The environment and atmosphere were very suitable for this group of gaming geeks, and the grades seemed to be quite high. When they came to the entrance of the hotel and saw the name of the hotel, Wuji and the others couldn't help but exclaim, "I didn't expect that we can still stay in the best once in our lifetime. Old devil, you are quite capable." Of course, Evildoers Run Wild said proudly, "It is the competition season now. Only participating teams can stay here. Ordinary people can't stay here. Come, our room is on the 7th floor." Evildoers Run Wild took out the room cards and distributed them to everyone while showing off. Then, he led Wang Yu's group to the elevator. Just as everyone was waiting for the elevator, a group of people walked over in a mighty manner. This team was all dressed in black uniforms. The team members were all well-built. They didn't look like gaming geeks at all. On the chest area of their shirts, the word Dark Moon was embroidered. The group of people came to the elevator and stood opposite the Chuanjian group. Then, Wuji looked at the Chuanjian group from head to toe. To be precise, he looked at the girls of Chuanjian. At the same time, there was a trace of wretchedness in the eyes of this group of guys, and a smirk on their faces. There were originally fewer female players in the gaming circle than male players. The number of female players who could play in a professional competition could be counted with one hand. Chuanjian had a total of 7 girls, which was indeed a bit rare. It was reasonable to be stared at. However, the naked gazes of this group of people made him very uncomfortable. When Wang Yu saw this, he frowned slightly. He took a step forward and stood in front of Mu Zixian. The rest of the Chuanjian people understood and stood in front of the ladies. Seeing that someone had suddenly blocked their view, the group was obviously a little unhappy. However, when they saw that Wang Yu and Evildoers Run Wild were tall and strong, and Mingdu and Bao San looked ferocious and did not look like good people, their momentum immediately wilted. The group of people were stunned for a moment, then retracted their gazes. Then, they casually smiled and asked, "Which team are you from? I don't think we've met you before." The gaming circle was very small, and the pro circle was even smaller. No matter what kind of relationship these pro-level experts had, they would all be familiar faces. Wang Yu and the others were all newcomers, so of course they had never seen them before. As the saying goes, you don't slap a smiling face. Since this black shirt battle team player took the initiative to ask, Wang Yu wasn't a cold person, so he replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "A motley crew." "A motley crew?" The black shirt battle team thought for a moment, then smiled and asked, "Is there such a team participating this time?" "No. I've never heard of it." The others shook their heads and asked, "Is it a new team? Which guild are you from?" Seeing that these people did not recognize his team, Wang Yu's face darkened and he said, "We are the representative team chosen by the 7th Battle Zone." Oh! The black shirt battle team suddenly understood. No wonder, no wonder. You guys have to work hard. I hope I can meet you guys, hee hee. Hearing that Wang Yu and the others were a grassroots team, these people's attitude suddenly changed 180 degrees. Although their words were nice and encouraging, as long as one wasn't an idiot, they could hear the mockery in these people's words. It couldn't be helped. Although they were all gamers, it was a tradition since ancient times for high-ranking players to look down on low-ranking players. As for pro players, they were even more disdainful of amateurs, especially this group of people. Their disdain came from their bones. F***CK. Hearing that, the Chuanjian battle team clenched their fists. This group of troublemakers from Chuanjian had always been fearless. How could they tolerate such mockery from others? If it wasn't for the fear of being banned for causing a violent incident with Ming Du's bad temper, he would have already made a move based on the last sentence of this group of people. At that time, Wuji chuckled and asked Chun Xiang next to him, "Brother Chun, have you heard of the Dark Moon battle team?" Chun Xiang smiled and glanced at the black shirt battle team. He nodded and said, "I've heard of it. It's a famous third-rate battle team. Who hasn't heard of it?" Wang Yu asked in confusion, "There's a third-rate battle team? What kind of logic is this?" Mingjian Daoxue also joined in and said, "Their battle record is a mess, but their team members like to hit their girlfriends to gain exposure. Everyone on Earth knows about this. TSK, so they're so famous. How shameless." The others shook their heads and sighed, supporting Mingjian Daoxue. Hearing the words of Chuanjian, the faces of the Dark Moon battle team members on the opposite side instantly darkened. Blue veins popped up on their foreheads. One of the team members with a big build pointed at Wuji and said angrily, "Say that again?" Wuji smiled and said, "How embarrassing would it be for me to say it just because you asked me to say it? I'm not your girlfriend. Do you still dare to hit me? Damn it." The team member roared and raised his fist to hit Wuji. Wuji took a step forward fearlessly and put his face under the man's fist. Then, he pointed at his own face with one hand and pointed at the surveillance camera on the roof with the other. He said like a rascal, "Come on, hit me. If you hit me, we'll have one less opponent. It's not a loss this time." The man's body shook violently when he heard that, and he put down his raised fist while trembling. The people behind him were also shocked. They looked at Wuji with increasingly cold eyes. Wuji was right. Under the camera, whoever dared to make a move would be banned. If they were not convinced, they could try. Although the Dark Moon battle team was not a first-class battle team, as a professional master, they were also very conceited. Naturally, they were unwilling to lose the competition because of a grassroots battle team. At this time, when Wuji and the others exposed their scars like this, they could only endure it secretly. After all, they were a professional team. Ordinary people knew about their dark history, and it wouldn't be easy for them to expose them. However, they didn't know anything about the Quanjin sect at all. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to win an argument with them. Even if they knew about the Quanjin sect, Would the shameless Quanjun sect be afraid of them? You'd better not let us see you in the arena. The big guy glared at Wuji fiercely and said, "Let's go." As he said that, he led his team members in the direction of the stairs. Wuji replied with a smile, "You should be glad that you don't meet us. Otherwise, we will slap you in front of the national audience. Just like how you hit your girlfriend." Damn. Chapter 1201. You guys know those guys. After the Dark Moon Battle Team and the others left, Wang Yu asked curiously. "It's the Dark Moon Battle Team," Wuji said, "only you don't know them. The one who wanted to beat me up is their captain. His name is Death Dark Moon. He's a complete idiot. Once, he couldn't beat his opponent during a live broadcast, so he beat up his own girlfriend. That's how he became famous." F***ck. Mu Zixin said angrily, "Beating up a woman, useless. We'll beat them to death if we meet them." "That's right." Yang Na and Linglong Meng also agreed, "Leave this to us." This kind of person isn't banned? Wang Yu was even more stunned. Kindness limited Wang Yu's imagination. It was the first time he heard of such a thing. "Banned," Wuji said. His original team terminated the contract with him. Later, this bastard found a rich man and reorganized the Dark Moon Battle Team. He's the captain. F***ck. What company actually supports this kind of person? Wang Yu exclaimed. Character was the soul of a team. Most of the audience now had righteous values. They naturally couldn't tolerate sand in their eyes. Even this kind of scum supported a financial group. Either there was a hole in their brain or they didn't care about their reputation at all. Famous Sword Daoxue, who had always been knowledgeable, said, "It seems to be a pirated website." Pirated website? Yes. Famous Sword Daoxue said, "It's the kind of pirated novels. That stupid website is really arrogant. Novels like I'm a Big Player and Godly Mechanical Hunter have all been pirated by this website." No wonder. Wang Yu understood. He frowned and said, "These bastards really flock together. They should be punished severely." However, pirated novels are also involved in the gaming circle. Because there are online games for novels too. Novels like I'm a Martial Artist in online games are also pirated by them. F***ck. Wang Yu was furious. If we meet them in the arena, we must beat them to death. No one can hold back. Everyone, after a long journey, everyone was a little tired. They returned to their respective rooms and slept early. It was only 7 o'clock the next morning when Evildoers Run Wild woke everyone up. "Why are you waking us so early?" It definitely didn't feel good to be woken up while they were sleeping soundly. Even if the one who had woken them up was a monster like Rampage, they still didn't hold back and rebuked him. Evildoers Run Wild said, "Sleep my **SS. The organizer staff will pick the teams to go and familiarize them with the venue. If you sleep, you won't be able to make it." Sister Nyo, Master, Sister Nyo, do you know about this? When everyone heard this, they all looked at Mu Zixin, who was napping on Wang Yu's arm. Team Mu Team. The organizer would have told Mu Team members Mu Squad Team Leader. Mu Team. Bye. Who knew that when Mu Zixin was asked this question, she immediately sat up, widened her eyes and said in a daze, "I don't know, no one informed me." "It's good that they didn't tell you." Evildoers Run Wild said helplessly, "They only informed professional teams. For amateur teams like yours, what difference does it make if you're familiar with them or not? You'll be beaten up by professional players anyway. This is insider information, so I called you guys early in the morning." F***ck. When they heard this, the Chuanjian people's anger surged to their heads in an instant. Meow. Although Demon Rampage was right, and it was reasonable for the organizers to do so, it was a completely different concept when it happened to others and when it happened to me. If it were any other amateur team, They would be satisfied to be able to watch the competition from the VIP seats for free and have the chance to fight against professional players. However, although the people of the Chuanjian sect looked crazy, they were all proud people with their eyes at the top of their heads. Their goal this time was to become the champion. How could this group of arrogant fellows endure such preferential treatment from the organizers? The violent Mingdu immediately cursed in dissatisfaction, Motherf ** Ker, looking down on others. I'm not going to fight in this competition. As he cursed, he wanted to flip the table. Unfortunately, the tables in the hotel were made of marble. Mingdu flipped it a few times, but it didn't budge at all. Everyone else's expressions were also very strange. They were all scowling, but they agreed with Mingdu's words. Alright, don't be angry. Seeing that everyone was about to leave, Wuji hurriedly stood up and said, What nonsense are you saying? Old Man Wang's money has already been paid, and we're going back without even showing our faces? Who are we letting down? But they're going too far. To place one's pride said in an extremely unbalanced manner. Wu Ji smiled and said, It's not that the organizers are bullying you, it's that your mentality is wrong. The organizers have clearly differentiated between amateurs and professionals from the very beginning. It's you guys who insisted on competing with professional teams. But, no buts. To place one's pride was just about to say something when Wuji rudely interrupted him. It's still the same thing. Your strength determines your position in the hearts of others. We're here because we're targeting the name of an amateur team. Others will naturally treat us as amateurs. If you want others to change their opinion of you, the only way is to fight properly and display your strength, understand? This, out of all the capable people in Chuanjian, only Wuji could be the boss. The key was that this guy knew how to act according to the situation. After being reprimanded by Wuji, the originally angry Chuanjian members immediately calmed down. Yes. Evildoers Run Wild also echoed from the side. What Boss Wuji said is what I wanted to say. This time, I personally promise everyone that as long as everyone can get a good ranking, I'll give everyone extra rewards. The higher your ranking, the better the reward. As the richest person in the gaming circle, Evildoers Run Wild's words were still very tempting. The people of the Chuanjian sect had already been convinced by Wuji. It was only because they wanted to save face that they did not express their admiration to Wuji. Now that the demon was running amok, he struck while the iron was hot. Everyone finally had a way out. Everyone pointed at Wuji and said, This time, it's because of Nyogu and Old Man Nyo's sponsorship, as well as Boss Yao's reward. It's not because of you. Do whatever you want. Wuji spread his hands, indicating that he was already used to it. After breakfast, around 8 o'clock, the staff of the organizer also arrived at the hotel. All the teams gathered outside the lobby and then walked together to the opposite arena. Along the way there was a lot of chatter. Looking over, it was the staff members who were communicating with the experts. The staff members were also ordinary people. It was inevitable for them to be so close to their idol. Guru, I'm your diehard fan. Guru, what's your blood type? Guru, give me an autograph. Chapter 1202. On the other hand, Chuanjian's team was in an awkward situation. Apart from the professional players who were surprised by the proportion of female players in Chuanjian's team, no one tried to strike up a conversation with them. However, this was good for everyone. Just like that, Wang Yu's team followed behind the team and entered the arena. After entering the arena, everyone finally saw what it meant to be rich. Longting Company was indeed the leader in the domestic industry. The scale of the arena was so large that it could compete with the Bird's Nest in the capital. Not to mention building such a venue, even renting it would cost an astronomical figure. The layout of the arena was the same as the public arena in the game. It was surrounded by spectator seats, and in the middle was the arena with holographic projection. the game process of the player's game characters would be projected on the arena, so that everyone would feel like they were there. Above the arena, there was a large 360-degree screen with no blind spots, so that the audience could see and hear more clearly. Huh? Isn't that Nyogo? Just when everyone was marveling at the generosity of Longting Company, a voice suddenly came from not far away. Hearing the voice, Wang Yu and the others quickly looked in the direction of the voice and saw a team standing not far away. The person who spoke was a young man with a very clean temperament, but Wang Yu had no impression of him at all. However, the leader of the team looked very familiar. When Wuji, Chun Xiang, and the others saw the leader of the opposite team, they all said unkindly, F***CK. It's really a small world for enemies. When the leader saw Wuji and the others, he also raised his middle finger with both hands. Seeing this scene, Wang Yu finally realized that this group of people turned out to be Dugu Jiuqiang's team. Obviously, the only person who could appear on this occasion and know Wang Yu was Lei Gongdang. Thinking of this, Wang Yu smiled and waved his hand. Little Lei, right? Why do you look completely different from the game? Lei Gongdang smiled and said, You can still recognize me. It seems that I haven't adjusted my appearance enough. Let me introduce you. These are my teammates. As he spoke, Lei Gongdi enthusiastically introduced him to the brothers behind him. This is Brother Iron Ox that I often tell you about. Hello, Brother Iron Ox. I've heard a lot about you. Lei Gongdang seemed to have mentioned Wang Yu to his friends many times. After seeing Wang Yu, the group of young people all showed expressions of admiration. You flatter me. Wang Yu waved his hand humbly. TSK, TSK, TSK. As expected of old cow. He's so popular even in the pro circle. Upon seeing this, the Chuanjin people could not help but click their tongues. Chuanjin was well aware of Dugu Jiuqiang's character. Although both sides would fight whenever they met, to be able to be considered as an opponent by Chuanjin, Dugu Jiuqiang's reputation was definitely not undeserved. Lei Gongshou had always been known as the #1 shield warrior in the server. Those who could be his teammates were naturally top-tier expert. Seeing so many experts being so respectful to Wang Yu, Chuanjin's players were all fascinated. However, at this moment, a tall and skinny guy with hair that stood on end crossed his arms and coldly laughed. You're the so-called #1 expert, Iron Ox? It's not a title. It's a title of respect, Lei Gongshou corrected. That person glared at Lei Gongshou and said indifferently, I didn't ask you. Lei Gongshou rolled his eyes and did not continue. Ha ha. Wang Yu laughed and said, It's just an empty title. That person coldly snorted and said, Since you dare to call yourself an empty title, it looks like you have some skill. When the time comes, let's spar on the stage and see who's the #1 in the world. F***CK. F***CK. Hearing that guy's words, everyone in Chuanjin was stunned. Chuanjin had seen people who dared to challenge Wang Yu before, but this was the first time they had heard someone speak in such a tone. Let's see who's the #1 in the world. Although he did not mean to look down on Wang Yu, it felt like the #1 expert in the world was either Wang Yu or him. Since when did such an arrogant person appear at the end of the world? After exclaiming in surprise, Mingdu looked up at Dugu Jiuqiang and asked, Songshin, who the F***CK is this? Songshin my *SS. Scram. Dugu Jiuqiang scolded Mingdu but did not reply. That person laughed and said, Lin Xuan. Who is that? Mingdu was at a loss for a moment and said unhappily, Tell me your game ID. However, before that person could reply, Ming Jian Daoshue exclaimed, Ning Jing Ziyuan? That's right. Ning Jing Ziyuan nodded proudly. This time, not only Mingdu, Bao San, and the others, but even the usually calm Wuji could not help but be surprised. God of War, Ning Jing Ziyuan? No wonder an expert like Lei Gongdang did not dare to talk back after being scolded by this guy. No wonder this guy spoke like he was the #1 expert in the world. It turned out that he was the legendary god of war, Ning Jing Xuan. Who would have thought that Dugu Jiuqiang was so good at playing around and even invited this mysterious guy? Dugu Jiuqiang saw the expressions of the people in Chuanzhen and laughed. He copied Wang Yu's tone and laughed. False reputation, it's just a false reputation. Ning Jing Xuan seemed to enjoy the surprised expressions of others and did not say anything even if Dugu Jiuqiang interrupted. Only Wang Yu was confused and asked, "Oh? Is he very powerful?" Awkward silence, an absolute awkward silence. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Ning Jing Xuan's face instantly darkened. Other than the people in Chuanzhen, very few people knew that Wang Yu was a new player. Now, Wang Yu's behavior was considered provocation in a good way, but it was called picking a fight in a bad way. If Ning Jing Xuan did not think highly of himself and did not want to lower himself to Wang Yu's level, he would have probably started cursing. Fortunately, Chun Xiang was good at handling things. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, he immediately tried to smooth things over. "He's not just powerful, he's awesome." "Really? How awesome?" Wang Yu asked again. "Let's put it this way," Chun Xiang explained. "Before you started playing the game, your current position was his. He also did all the things that you did." Oh. Wang Yu nodded repeatedly. After knowing that his opponent was an expert even more powerful than Lei Gongdang, Wang Yu cupped his fists and said, "I hope I can compete with you." As soon as Wang Yu said this, the originally relaxed atmosphere became even more awkward. This time, Wang Yu was definitely sincere in wanting to compete with Ning Jing Xuan. However, he had just expressed his disdain for Ning Jing Xuan, and now he wanted to compete with Ning Jing Xuan. It was clearly a declaration of war. "Humph!" Ning Jing Xuan snorted coldly and turned his head to the side. Wang Yu was still confused and mumbled, "Why is he like this?" Everyone. The atmosphere was very awkward. All right. Fortunately, Wuji broke the awkwardness in time. "Let's familiarize ourselves with the venue first." Then, Wuji and the others pulled Wang Yu away. "Goodbye, everyone." Wang Yu greeted Lei Gongdang and the others politely, then said to Ning Jing Xuan, "I'll be waiting for you." The Chuanzhen people all broke down. "Big brother, can you stop talking?" Chapter 1203. The so-called familiarizing oneself with the venue was actually to experience the environment in advance. The environment of the venue wasn't bad, and one could basically see everything from a high vantage point. The reason why everyone chose to walk around was because they wanted to walk around the venue and catch up with old acquaintances. After all, everyone was in the same circle. They might be enemies in the factory, but they had a good relationship in private. The esports circle wasn't a lifetime buyout system, and who knew when they would become teammates. There was no harm in building a good relationship. Although the people from Quan Zhen's sect weren't part of the gaming circle, they were still considered influential figures in the game. At this moment, they saw many familiar faces, such as Blood Alliance, World Domination, and other large guilds that they had interacted with before. Everyone was present. In fact, when the Quan Zhen sect walked out, the group even encountered Nian Luyun and Icy Jade's group. This group of people seemed to be the representative team of the second region. Their team name was very unique, something like "Fighters Don't Cry." A bunch of uncultured people who came up with such a lame name. After leaving the venue, Chuanzhen and the others didn't have a place to play. They usually talked about the game, and after returning from the venue, they went back into the game. The Pro League had come to an end, and the atmosphere in the game was very different from before. The streets of the main cities were filled with banners, especially in the main cities with participating teams. The banners were printed with the team's flags, and it looked very spectacular. This was especially true for Afterglow City. A mere city like this actually had 3 teams participating in the competition. It was incomparably arrogant. Of course, the most eye-catching thing was the Quan Jin Sec's extremely eye-catching Ox 13 war flag. It was simply the nightmare of all the players in Afterglow City. If it weren't for the fact that the Quan Zhen sect was infamous, everyone would have wanted to tear down this disgusting war flag. On the third day, the day of the competition finally arrived. At such an exciting time, Chuanjin obviously wouldn't laze around in bed. They woke up early in the morning, washed up, and gathered at Wang Yu's room, ready to enter. But at this moment, Evil Snort carried a box into Wang Yu's room. Then, he shouted, "Come, come, come. Everyone, share it." "What is this?" Everyone was confused. "Uniform." As he spoke, Evildoers Run Wild fished out a piece and threw it to Wuji. "Try it on and see if it fits." Wuji took the clothes and skillfully opened the packaging. When he opened it, he was dumbfounded. The color of the clothes was the color of feces yellow. Wuji was too lazy to complain about this. The key was the logo on the clothes. It was so bright that it blinded everyone's eyes. The yellow clothes were already old and ugly, and there were even a few ancient Chinese characters printed on the clothes with incomparably bright red cinnabar. At the front was written Supreme of Wulin, and at the back was Kung Fu. The words were red on a yellow background. It was exactly the same as the scribbles sold by the monks and Taoist priests in the tourist area. Wuji was so embarrassed that he clutched his clothes and asked with a trembling voice, What the hell are these things? They're so stupid." Kung Fu, Wulin, these terms had long been separated from superstition in this era. When a normal person saw such a logo, they would think that it was printed with a certain Xiang Professional Technical College for Immortal Cultivators. They had already broken away from being a Chinibu and entered the realm of stupidity. The motto of Chuanjin had always been that one could be crazy, but one could not be stupid. Instead of letting Wuji wear these clothes on stage, it would be better to let him wear female clothes. At least people would not think that he was stupid, right? Not only Wuji, but the other members of Chuanjin were also stunned on the spot when they saw the team uniform. After a long time, Chun Xiang asked while trembling, "Are we going to wear such stupid clothes on stage? There are close to 100,000 people here. It's too embarrassing." "Not only that, we can watch the live stream in the game. There will be hundreds of millions of people watching us act stupid." Wuji shed silent tears. "Stupid? I think it's pretty." Wang Yu picked up the clothes in Wuji's hand and compared them to his body. He threw it to Wuji and asked Evildoers Run Wild, "Do you have 5Xs?" "Yes." Evildoers Run Wild rummaged through the box and pulled out a large one for Wang Yu. Wang Yu put it on happily. Everyone was speechless. What kind of F***king aesthetic was this? Wuji gulped and asked Evildoers Run Wild, "Brother Yao, can we not wear this?" "Yes." Evildoers Run Wild nodded. "That's good." Wuji had just felt relieved when Evildoers Run Wild said, "But I don't have the final say. When the time comes, my dad will bring a group of martial arts legends to watch the competition. If you don't wear it, I can't guarantee your safety." Wuji clenched his fist. The Chuanjin members broke down. Martial arts legends. F***ck, they had definitely messed with a tough character. Right on the heels of that, Evildoers Run Wild added, "Don't even think about escaping. The leader of Swallow Faction is here too. None of you can escape." Swallow Faction? Everyone was stunned. "What's that?" Yang Na explained, "It's a sect that practices Qigong. Do you see that we're on the 4th floor? Nothing will happen to them if they jump down." "Yeah." Wang Yu echoed. "It's said that their sect's Qigong has reached the pinnacle. There was once an expert from Swallow Faction who jumped from the 30th floor. F***ck. Isn't it just acting dumb? We'll go all out." Everyone's hearts turned cold. They hurriedly pulled out their uniforms from the box and put them on. Damn it. Jumping from the 30th floor was more than 100 meters. With this ability, it was basically equivalent to flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground. After everyone put on their uniforms, Yang Na asked curiously, "Who jumped from the 30th floor? Why haven't I heard of it?" "You're still young. You probably didn't even remember when he fell to his death," Wang Yu said. After everyone put on their uniforms, Wang Yu asked again, "Where's our team flag?" "It's here." Evildoers Run Wild grabbed the alley and flipped it over. A dark red flag fell to the ground. Heng Xing picked up the flag, grabbed one end of it and pulled hard. The retractable flagpole was pulled out from the ground. Printed on the flag was the infamous battle flag of the Motley Crowd Battle Team, or Bull 13. "Oh my God!" Wuji rubbed his forehead. He was about to faint. This was a F*King flag that was designed at the last minute. Everyone had been careless and didn't think that they would need a battle flag to enter the competition. Who would have thought that Wang Yu would be so thoughtful and even get someone to make a battle flag? The competition was about to start. It was too late to make a battle flag. Wuji decided to just throw caution to the wind and shouted, "Forget it! Since we're embarrassing ourselves, let's just throw it all away. We'll take this battle flag. Let's go. Go 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 go." Chapter 1204. Rebirth's popularity was undeniable. Such a huge arena could accommodate tens of thousands of people, and all the seats were filled. The fans of the various teams held up banners, each taking their own side. Under the lead of the staff, all the teams entered the arena one after another. Every time a team entered the arena, their support group would shout their slogan loudly. The atmosphere in the arena was pulled to the highest point. Under such a commotion, Chuanjin's group wore the martial arts attire of the Supreme of Martial Arts and carried the Bull 13 battle flag. They staggered as they followed the main group into the arena. In an instant, the originally noisy arena became dead silent. Following that, the laughter almost tore the roof off. F*CK, which team is this? What the F*CK are they dressed up like? Are they filming a movie? Who knows? Looks like it's an amateur team. They're probably not strong enough, so they're using unique outfits to attract attention. If that's really the case, it's obvious that they've won. F*CK, a bunch of hype dogs. Facing the boos from the audience, other than Wang Yu who was strutting forward, the rest of Chuanjin's team lowered their heads, wishing they could stuff their heads into their pants. Even Yen Luyun and the others, who had already entered the arena, could not help but break out in cold sweat when they saw Wang Yu's team's outfit. They thought to themselves, "This bunch of idiots, what are they doing?" After all the teams entered the arena, the host began to introduce the teams one by one. At that moment, most of the teams in the arena were veteran professional teams. Since the audience could afford to spend so much money to watch the competition, they were definitely experienced players. They were naturally familiar with these teams, and were even more familiar with them than the host. The teams that everyone was unfamiliar with were the commoner teams that represented the 15 battlefields in the game. Therefore, the host did not forget to mention the glorious achievements of these teams when introducing them. The teams that could enter this arena, even if they were commoner teams, were all strong experts among the player community. Although everyone did not know them, once their names were mentioned, the audience would still find them somewhat familiar. They would all exclaim, "So it's them." When it was Chuanjin's turn, the host held back his laughter and explained, "The Motley Crowd team is Yu Huiqing's team from the 7th battlefield. They are from the same city as Blood Army and Qianningshan. Their guild is Chuanjin." Hearing the host's words, the audience could not help but become excited. Chuanjin? F*CK. So it's this group of lunatic. No wonder they're dressed like retards. They really live up to their reputation. The host cleared his throat and pointed at Wang Yu. The leader of the mob is the legendary #1 expert, Iron Ox. Hiss. So this is Iron Ox. The audience cheered again. Wang Yu's name was still very famous among the veteran gamers. Moreover, he had unsealed a divine artifact a few days ago, and his popularity had yet to die down. Now that they saw Wang Yu in person, the gamers were also very excited. The host was also very good at handling things. Seeing that Wang Yu's appearance had caused such a huge reaction, he smiled and asked, "Guru Iron Ox, I heard that you are the #1 expert in the game today. Do you have any secrets?" "Secret?" Wang Yu thought for a moment, then made a pose and said, "Because I know Kung Fu." The host was stunned. "What? Kung Fu?" Wang Yu turned around and let the host see the two big words behind him. Then, he turned around and pointed at the martial arts supreme in front of him. He raised his fist and said, "Do you understand?" This time, not only the host, but the audience on the stage were also dumbfounded. The host said awkwardly, "Is it like those on TV where you can knock down a large group with a wave of your hand?" "No." Wang Yu shook his head and said, "Real Kung Fu is about the unity of the waist and the horse. The so-called unity of the waist and the horse is explained by the great martial artist Mr. Bruce Lee in my heart. Then, can you show us?" Seeing that Wang Yu spoke like a lunatic, the host wiped his sweat and hurriedly interrupted. Wang Yu smiled. "I'll show it during the competition later. Then I'm looking forward to your performance." Under the boos of the audience, the host walked to the next team with a blank face. Wang Yu turned around and saw that Xuanzhen was far away from him. He could not help but ask, "Where are you guys going?" "The Xuanzhen people. Who are you? Where am I? Do we know each other?" After introducing the teams, the major teams returned to their seat. Next, it was time for the host to give a speech and various leaders to say a few words. Of course, these could not be written. Even if the Culture Review allowed it, the readers would tear my skin off. So, without further ado, let's get straight to the point. Let's talk about the competition, sneaking around again. The host still had some conscience after all. They were not shameless enough to mix the amateur teams with the professional teams to be abused. According to the competition process, the representative teams from each region would compete first. The 15 teams would then fight it out. The final winner would be the amateur champion of the league. Moreover, the amateur champion could compete with the professional masters. This seemed to be a lot fairer, but the competition was also a little more intense. After all, everyone came here to compete with the professional masters. Now that there was only one person they could compete with, the threshold was obviously much higher. After the introduction of the process, it was time to draw the teams for the competition. Pada. After a soft sound, the lights in the arena dimmed. 2 beams of light descended from the sky and landed on the seats of the representatives of the 15 regions. "Begin." As the host gave the order, the 2 beams of light quickly switched back and forth between the seats of each team. "Stop." The host gave the order again. The rapidly switching beams of light began to slow down and finally landed on the seats of the 2 teams. It was unknown whether it was lucky or not, but Xuanzhen was the first to compete. At this time, the host also announced, "The first team to compete is Yu Huiqing's Ragtag team from the 7th region and Shadow of Sorrow's team from the 10th region. Both teams, please enter the arena." After the host finished speaking, the 2 teams were led into the competition room by the staff of the venue. In the competition room, there were 2 rows of huge game cabins specially used for competitions. These game cabins were much more high-end than helmets, so they were naturally expensive. Not only that, for a company like Longting Company that created games with its heart, all the players who logged in with the game cabins would receive a special bonus in terms of experience and reputation. Of course, only professional masters and rich people could afford to use these things. The reason why it was said to be specially used for competitions was that these game cabins did not bind the identity of the players. Instead, they used more advanced technology to scan the players and read the game information of the players. Therefore, they could be shared. This way, the fairness and rationality of the game could be ensured. Chapter 1205. After entering the gaming cabin, the characters of the two sides were transferred to the arena. At the same time, the projections of both sides appeared in front of the audience. The rules of the official Pro League were the same as the previous qualifiers. First would be individual battles, then would be tag battles, and finally would be the team battles. The final result would be determined based on point. The only difference was that the bags of the players in the Pro League were sealed and no items were allowed. This was understandable. If they didn't do this, they wouldn't be able to show off their competitive nature. 4 players like Whole of the Winds and Clouds who had all sorts of strange items in their hands, they could teleport all over the field as if they didn't cost anything. There was no point in competing. So in the Pro League, players could only use their true abilities to show off their competitive spirit. According to the rules, Chuanjin was the host for the first match, so they had the first pick of the map. So in the first individual battle, Chuanjin would choose the map. According to the rules, the first match was to test out their opponent. After all, teams that could enter the Pro League were definitely not weak. Therefore, the Quanjin sect chose the smallest arena for the duel. The first player to go on stage was also the weakest player in the Quanjin sect, Ming Jian Daoxue. The first player from Shadow of a Morning was also an assassin called Shadow Killer. Compared to famous Sword Snow, Shadow Killer's name was much more imposing. After choosing their players, the two were transported to the arena. Shadow Killer wore a gray mask, had a hunched back, and had a wretched look in his eyes. With such a unique aura, one could tell that he was a qualified assassin. On the other hand, famous Sword Snow was covered in shining gold equipment. He held his head high and his expression was like a warrior's. He didn't have the awareness of an assassin at all. Even though their auras were different, the two's fighting style was very similar. After the countdown, famous Sword Snow and Shadow Killer activated stealth at the same time. Suddenly, the two of them turned into two shadows in the arena. It couldn't be helped. They were assassins, so their starting moves were all stealth. Especially against people of the same class, they couldn't expose themselves. But what happened next was the most boring scene in the history of the Pro League. The audience sat in the audience seats and had an omniscient view, so they could see the shadows of the players. On the other hand, the two players on the stage couldn't see each other at all. In addition, the first two guys to fight were probing, so they were more cautious when they fought. After the competition started, Minken Daoxue scurried to the side of the stage and hid in a corner, staring at the competition. Dark Shadow Killer seemed to have discussed this with famous Sword Daoxue. He also turned around and ran to his own corner to observe the situation. Seeing the two wretched fellows hiding and not moving, the audience was dumbfounded. F***ck, everyone had been watching competitions for so many years, and it wasn't uncommon for assassins to fight assassins, but this was the first time they had seen such a fighting style. It was no wonder that people often said that low-end children had more fun. Compared to professional players, the amateur players' amateurishness was vividly displayed. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in a professional arena, everyone would have thought that they were watching a spring festival gala skit. A minute passed, and neither of them moved. The audience started to get impatient. 3 minutes passed, and the two of them still hadn't moved. The audience began to shout, "****, hurry up and hit him, stab him in the balls." 5 minutes passed, and the audience was tired. They sat in their seats and started to doze off. The teammates of the two teams stared at the empty stage for 5 minutes, and their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. They started to feel uneasy. The tickets for the professional arena were so expensive. If they played like this, they would be slapped with a brick. After a few more minutes, Minken Daoxue and Dark Shadow Killer finally became impatient. They stretched out their hands and moved towards the center of the arena. Of course, Minken Daoxue relied on his good equipment and the ability to enter stealth twice, so he was more confident and walked towards the other side while standing. Dark Shadow Killer, on the other hand, fully displayed the carefulness and wretchedness of an assassin. He actually walked forward with his butt in the air and one hand on the ground. "They're moving! They're moving!" The two of them finally started to move. The audience's eyes were brimming with tears. It was as if they had seen a person in a vegetative state who had been lying down for 10 years sit up and talk. The audience members who had already fallen asleep heard the shouts of the audience beside them and quickly sat up. Luckily, the stage wasn't big, and the distance between the two of them was getting closer. The audience's hearts were getting more and more excited, and they started to count down for the two of them to meet. At first, it was just in their hearts, but in the end they actually shouted at the same time. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step, but just when everyone thought that the two of them were going to fight, Dark Shadow Killer miraculously crawled past Minken Daoshua's legs. F***CK. Seeing this scene, the audience broke down. But at this moment, Minken Daoshua seemed to feel someone slip past his leg. He froze for a moment, then bent down and stabbed his dagger into the ground. At the same time, Dark Shadow Killer suddenly stood up and dodged Minken Daoshua's stab. Then, he turned his arm and swung his dagger horizontally behind him. But Minken Daoshua was bent over, and Dark Shadow Killer's dagger brushed past Minken Daoshua's back. Just like that, the two assassins strangely dodged the first attack from both sides. The audience sighed. Although the two's attacks didn't work, after the first attack, the two of them confirmed that their opponents were right beside them. So, they closed their eyes and swung their daggers. Minken Daoshua thought that Dark Shadow Killer was attacking the bottom 3, so he subconsciously squatted on the ground, afraid that he wouldn't be able to protect his ass. Since Minken Daoshua was standing, his body was elevated, and his dagger was aimed at the target's heart. The two of them crossed paths again, brushing past each other again, and their attacks missed. Just like that, 2 more attacks missed. At this time, the audience on the stage was completely dumbfounded. Was this really not rehearsed? Heavens, I can't believe it. I paid the ticket price to watch the Pro League to come here and watch the Crossroads. At this time, Minken Daoshua, who had failed to hit his opponent several times in a row, was a little anxious. After thinking for a moment, he simply ran to the edge of the stage. He leaned against the edge of the stage and cancelled stealth, exposing himself to Dark Shadow Killer's vision. Seeing his target, Dark Shadow Killer was slightly stunned. Although he didn't understand what Minken Daoshua meant, he still activated swift movement and raised his dagger as he charged over. After all, more than 10 minutes had passed. Dark Shadow Killer's patience had long since worn out, and he wanted to end this boring farce. Now that his target had appeared, he naturally wouldn't let him go. If he waited until his target's stealth cooldown ended, he would be in a passive position. Chapter 1206. Heh! At this moment, Mingjien Daoshua's lips curled up into a smile. Shadow Killer felt a chill in his heart. Duong! Shadow Killer's dagger stabbed into Mingjien Daoshua's body, but it didn't deal any damage. At the same time, Mingjien Daoshua disappeared in front of Shadow Killer. Disappear! Seeing that Mingjien Daoshua disappeared, Shadow Killer was shocked. Disappear was a level 60 assassin's ultimate skill. Obviously, Shadow Killer hadn't learned it. Moreover, Shadow Killer, who had just cancelled stealth, was still on cooldown. He was now exposed to Mingjien Daoshua's vision. Famous Sword Dao Shui took the opportunity to run behind Dark Shadow Killer. Raising his dagger, he used Gouge to stun Dark Shadow Killer. Then, he used Backstab, Slit Throat, Tendon Pick, Bone Break. A series of combos quickly landed on Dark Shadow Killer's back. Mingjien Daoshua had a full set of exquisite equipment. His attack power was extremely high, and his back was the weakness of all classes. Assassins also had the bonus of attacking from behind. After a series of combos, Shadow Killer turned into a white light and appeared below the stage. First round, Mingjien Daoshua won. The audience let out a long sigh of relief. Damn, this match was too tiring. The first 10 minutes of boredom overshadowed the brilliant counterattack at the end. Everyone was glad that this map was an arena. If it was a larger map, they would have to ask the organizers for a refund. Because of this, the audience's impression of the two teams on the field had also become extremely bad. Especially the Quan Zhen Sek's disgraceful moves. Now, in the eyes of the audience, they were already synonymous with shameless and lowly. The second to go up was Exquisite Dream. This girl's strength wasn't much higher than Mingjian Daoshue's, but she was a girl. They couldn't let her go first. Chuanjin still wanted to save face. The opposing player was called Shadow Stinger. Just from the name, it was obvious that he was another assassin. Moreover, he was an existence that complemented Shadow Killer. This assassin was dressed the same as Shadow Killer, and had the same wretched temperament. After going up, he made a provocative gesture to Exquisite Dream. This couldn't be blamed for Shadow Stinger's arrogance. After all, archers were always countered by assassins, and they were a class that relied on terrain. If it was a forest terrain, archers and assassins might still have the power to fight. As for the narrow arena, archers in this terrain were basically equivalent to sending themselves to death. The match began, and the Shadow Stinger disappeared into stealth. Upon seeing this, Linglong Dream retreated to a corner of the arena and crouched on the ground. At this moment, in the eyes of the audience, the shadow of the Shadow Stinger was activating swift movement, raising his dagger as he charged at Exquisite Dream. Sigh, as the Shadow Stinger approached, the audience could not help but sigh. In this scenario, the archer was at a huge disadvantage. He didn't know what Chuanjin was thinking. Were they only thinking about how to attract people's attention? However, just when everyone, including the Nether Shadowthorn, thought that Linglong Meng would die without a doubt, they heard a pause sound and the Nether Shadowthorn was frozen in place. It's a trap. The audience was shocked and couldn't help but cry out. Shadow Stinger felt a chill in his heart. As he struggled to break out of the trap, he swung his dagger at Exquisite Dream. Exquisite Dream flipped forward and dodged to the back of the Shadow Stinger. Then, she kicked the Shadow Stingers but with Raiding Foot. Raiding Foot had the special effect of stopping the opponent within a short distance. The Shadow Stinger screamed and was pushed into the corner of the arena. Whoosh! Immediately after, Exquisite Dream blew a whistle and a giant multicolored tiger appeared under Exquisite Dream's feet. With a command, the giant tiger pounced on the Shadow Stinger. Damn, this is the Beast King Hunter's pet summoning skill. Seeing Exquisite Dream summon a pet, the audience also recognized Exquisite Dream's skill and were greatly surprised. The pet summoning skill book was very rare. They didn't expect that a random girl from Chuanjin would have this skill. This skill book was given to Exquisite Dream by Yang Na when they were fighting in the faction dungeon. Exquisite Dream had never lacked damage output teammates, so she had never used it. This was also the first time she used it. The less she used it, the lower the attack power of the pet. It looked like the giant tiger was ruthlessly biting the Shadow Stinger's head, but after chewing for a long time, the Shadow Stinger's HP had only dropped by half. The trap only lasted for 10 seconds. By the time the Shadow Stinger reacted, Exquisite Dream still wouldn't be able to fight back. Who would have thought that Linglong Meng would not be in a hurry? She bent down and placed a row of traps in front of her. Thorn trap, freezing trap, foot trap, a bunch of traps that restricted the opponent's movement. The Shadow Stinger was now in the corner of the arena. Although the range of Exquisite Dream's traps wasn't large, the quantity caused a qualitative change. This F*King row of traps was placed side by side, directly blocking the Shadow Stinger in the corner. When the Shadow Stinger turned around and saw the trap array behind him, he was sweating profusely. God knows how an archer had so much MP to set up traps. Humph humph. Exquisite Dream sneered. She raised her crossbow and aimed at the Shadow Stinger. Son of AB*TCH, this is a democratic society. You can choose the trap you want. The Shadow Stinger looked at the trap on the ground, and then at the giant tiger that was biting his head like a popsicle. His eyes were filled with despair. The range of the traps was small, and there were many limitations. However, the control ability of the traps was the longest out of all the skills. Now that the Shadow Stinger was blocked in the corner, from the cooldown of Exquisite Dream's skills and the control time, Exquisite Dream would definitely be able to stop the Shadow Stinger from moving a single step before he was bitten to death. Damn it, underestimating the enemy was the death of me. The Shadow Stinger sighed and chose to surrender. Exquisite Dream won the second round. In this battle, Exquisite Dream won the competition with a huge disadvantage. Moreover, Exquisite Dream was a seemingly weak female player. This was a proper victory for the weak. Compared to the boring assassin duel in the previous round, this was many times more exciting. It immediately attracted a burst of cheers from the audience. Seeing that the crowd was so lively, the host knew how to find an opportunity to shout, "Everyone, give a round of applause to this lady." The crowd applauded. Under the cheers of the audience, Exquisite Dream proudly returned to her team. Unlike the cheers of the audience, the Chuanjian players were a little surprised and asked Exquisite Dream, "Why did you use traps? Wouldn't it be easier to use your binding arrows?" Exquisite Dream laughed and said, "I have to conserve my strength. Everyone starts with the small cards. Who would use a trump card right from the start?" Makes sense. Everyone nodded and then mocked famous Sword Snow. It's obvious that Snow is the small card. F***CK. Famous Sword Snow waved his dagger in protest. At this moment, Wuji turned around and asked everyone, "Who's going for the next round?" Everyone shook their heads. "Whoever wants to go can go. I'm not going." Chapter 1207. Meow, this group of bastards just mocked famous Sword Daoxue. Wouldn't anyone who went up now prove that they were weak? Chuanjian's group was organized and undisciplined. They could talk about a strike at any time, so it was reasonable for them to refuse to go up in order to not be weak. Evildoers Run Wild saw that Chuanjian's group was acting up again and immediately became anxious. "Damn, you guys can't do this. There are level 10 martial arts masters watching in the audience. You don't want to die with me, do you?" Everyone naturally did not want to be beaten up by martial arts masters. They were stunned for a moment, then pointed at Wuji and said, "Then Wuji will go." It had to be said that Chuanjian's group was surprisingly unanimous when it came to tricking Wuji. They were probably the only ones who could come up with the idea of forcing a cleric to fight in a one-on-one match. Wuji seemed to have thought of it long ago. He was not surprised at everyone's choice. Evildoers Run Wild looked at Wuji helplessly and said, "Then you go. Anyway, we've won twice. It's okay to lose one match." "Are you kidding me? How can I lose?" Wuji sneered and went up the ring. As soon as Wuji went up the ring, the audience was surprised again. Damn, the third to go up is actually a cleric. What is this motley crew thinking? No matter how restrained an archer was against an assassin, at least an archer was considered a damage dealer, while a cleric was a proper support profession. Letting a cleric go up was basically equivalent to giving away points. Could it be that these guys were paid? Just as everyone was wondering, the countdown ended, and the battle officially began. Wuji's opponent was called Shadow Destroyer, and he was still an assassin. It was said that Shadow City was the nest of assassins, and it was indeed a well-deserved reputation. There were actually so many assassins in a team. Having learned his lesson from the previous match where Shadow Stinger had been blocked by his opponent due to his love rival, Shadow Extinguisher didn't dare to underestimate his opponent in the slightest, even though his opponent was a cleric. As soon as the countdown ended, Shadow Destroyer activated stealth. However, Wuji was one step faster. He raised his staff and cast a Holy Mark on Shadow Destroyer's head. Holy Mark was a level 45 priest skill. If used before the target was invisible, it could mark the target. Although it couldn't be considered an anti-stealth skill, it was one of the most effective skills against assassins. After being imprinted, a symbol appeared above the Shadow Destroyer, and its position was completely within Wuji's grasp. Seeing this, Shadow Destroyer cancelled his stealth and charged at Wuji. Unhurriedly, Wuji gave himself an invincible buff, then turned around and ran. Shadow Extinguisher was delighted to see Wuji's back exposed. He activated swift movement again. Just as Shadow Destroyer was about to catch up to Wuji, Wuji leaped and leisurely floated into the air, flying above Shadow Destroyer's head. Assassins were elusive and had high damage output. However, their weakness was relatively obvious. They had short hands. If a mage really flew in the air and beat up an assassin, the assassin would have no way to fight back. Shadow Destroyer was shocked to see Wuji fly up. He hurriedly stopped and retreated to avoid Wuji's attack range. Fly had a limited time, and Shadow Destroyer could wait for Wuji's skill to cool down. However, Wuji didn't give Shadow Destroyer the chance. He chuckled and activated the priest's awakening skill, Martyrdom. Martyrdom was an aggro-pulling skill. For 5 seconds, it could make all the enemy targets and skills within a 500-kilometer forcefully attack the caster. The priests in Rebirth were definitely a great setting. There were all sorts of skills like self-destruct and blocking damage. To sum it up, they didn't care about their lives. Although this skill sounded pretty nonsensical, it was extremely overpowered when used together with the invincibility of the Holy Light Shield. 5 seconds seemed very short, but even if thousands of troops attacked Chuanjin's group at the same time, Wuji could still protect everyone. Shadow Destroyer was right under Wuji's feet, and his range was definitely within 500 meters. Before Shadow Destroyer could retreat, he had already floated up involuntarily, stabbing his sword into Wuji's stomach. Wuji leisurely flew out of the stage. Martyrdom ended, and Shadow Destroyer fell off the stage with a plop. System notification. 3rd round, Motley Crowd Wuji wins. What the F***CK? The audience was dumbfounded. Was it so hard to watch a proper match? Below the stage, Shadow Destroyer's eyes were indifferent as if he hadn't reacted. His expression was clearly saying, "Who am I? Where am I? What are you guys doing?" Looking at the dumbfounded Shadow Destroyer, the audience had a look of pity. If he lost, then so be it. He actually lost in such a strange way. How pitiful. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, Wang Yu's father asked the group of old men beside him smugly, "See that? This is the team we sponsored. They're very strong, right?" Chuanjin's group won 3 matches in a row. Although their methods were inferior, they gained face for Wang Yu's father. All the martial arts experts wiped their sweat and agreed, yes, a gentleman fights with his wits, not his strength. Old Wang, you didn't choose the wrong person. When Wuji returned to the team, he heard Chun Xiang say with a grin, "Old dog Wuji is as cunning as ever. Chicken, give me the money." Motherf **Ker. Why aren't you dead yet? To place one's pride glared at Chun Xiang and took out a bag of money, handing it to Chuanjin's group. "You lost money again?" Wuji patted to place one's pride's head sympathetically and said, "How many times have I told you, don't play with them? Come, uncle will take care of you." Scram. To place one's pride rudely slapped Wuji's hand away and said gloomily, "Why aren't you dead yet?" Humph. Wuji sneered and said to everyone, "Let Chicken fight the next match. If we don't fight this kind of small character now, he'll just be a burden to us." Makes sense. Seconded. +1. Everyone nodded in unison. Motherf **Ker. To place one's pride choke. After losing 3 matches in a row, Shadow Destroyer finally saw how strong Chuanjin's group was. Archers could win against assassins, and priests could win against assassins. Everyone could see that their combat power was not on the same level. No wonder the organizers did not pay much attention to amateur experts. If they were all at Shadow Destroyer's level, there was no reason to pay attention to them. With Chuanjin's strength, it was already very difficult for them to deal with retired professional teams, let alone a team like Shadow Destroyer. Everyone in Shadow Destroyer knew that they would definitely lose this time. Therefore, the person who went up was none other than their team leader, Shadow Maniac. Shadow Maniac was a warrior, and he was also Shadow Destroyer's #1 expert. If they sent their strongest expert out, there was still a chance for them to turn the tables. At least they would not lose too badly. Chapter 1208. Under the threat of Wuji and the others, To Place One's Pride carried the title of Chuanjin's laggard as he walked up the ring, swearing. After entering the ring, the first thing To Place One's Pride did was raise his middle finger. Whoa! The audience erupted in an instant. F***ck, this kid is so young, but why is he so annoying? He actually dared to raise his middle finger in the ring. Is he trying to mock the entire world? Seeing this, Looming Shadow's expression couldn't help but turn ugly. In the previous few matches, Chuanjin had sent out an archer and a cleric to fight, which was already suspicious. Now, he was openly mocking them, showing his low moral standards. Of course, Chuanjin's people understood that To Place One's Pride's middle finger was actually aimed at Chuanjin's group. Rebirth was a game that emphasized strategy. To Place One's Pride wasn't weak at all, but this kid was too young and impatient. He could only display his true strength when he was serious. To Place One's Pride's equipment and skill set weren't bad, but he didn't have many outstanding battle records. Everyone was doing this so that he could fight properly. Otherwise, it would be too shameful to lose points in front of this kind of opponent. On one hand, they wanted to lose in style, on the other hand, they didn't want to be coward. The match hadn't even begun, but the two were already bursting with energy. As the countdown ended, To Place One's Pride activated Collapsing Fist and rushed towards Looming Shadow. Looming Shadow wasn't to be outdone, and immediately used Charge to counterattack. The two were like raging bulls, rushing towards each other. To Place One's Pride was a grandmaster of combat, and Collapsing Fist was only an assault skill, so its priority naturally couldn't compare to Charge. Just as they were about to collide, To Place One's Pride suddenly cancelled the skill. He landed with Eagle Stamp, followed by a roll, dodging Looming Shadow's charge and appearing behind him. As a top-tier expert representing one of the 10 battle zones, Wild Shadow was no slouch. When he saw To Place One's Pride suddenly vanish, he cancelled charge without hesitation and activated Whirlwind Slash. To Place One's Pride's head with his two-handed greatsword infused with battle aura. For a class as fragile as a Grandmaster of Combat, taking a Whirlwind Slash head-on from a weapon warrior was definitely not going to feel good. To Place One's Pride, who had originally wanted to attack Looming Shadow Frenzy's lower back with a knee strike, hurriedly crouched down and swept his right leg across the ground, hitting Looming Shadow Frenzy's ankle. Looming Shadow Frenzy, who was spinning in a circle, was suddenly hit by imbued pride. His skill was interrupted, and he staggered a few steps back. Taking advantage of Looming Shadow Frenzy's unsteady footing, To Place One's Pride leaped up and was about to follow up with a Flash Chain Kick. But Flash Chain Kick's lead-up was a bit too long. To Place One's Pride hadn't finished channeling his skill when Looming Shadow Frenzy had already used Quick Recover to stabilize himself. To Place One's Pride's leg abruptly reached out with his left arm and used Grab, dragging him in front of himself. Warriors were strength-based classes, so there were 2 stages to the Grab skill. After dragging him in front of himself, he could choose to throw him in the air or on the ground. Whether he was in the air or on the ground, he could use Follow UPS, and the result would be terrifying. To Place One's Pride didn't even think. Just as Looming Shadow Frenzy was about to throw him into the air, his other leg followed up with a diving knee kick to Looming Shadow's chin. Bang! To Place One's Pride was sent flying with a dull thud. To Place One's Pride had used a skill when he should have used Quick Recover, so he didn't succeed and fell to the ground pathetically. However, Looming Shadow Frenzy didn't have it easy either. To place one's pride hit him head-on with a diving knee kick. He took a few steps back, and a minus 8,954 damage floated up above his head. A level 50 weapon fighter would have a total of 70,000 to 80,000 HP. To place one's pride's attack had shaken off nearly a tenth of Looming Shadow Frenzy's HP. The two had only exchanged blows for one round, but they were both shaken. F***CK. What an amazing weapon fighter. He can actually keep up with my speed. How much agility did he add? To place one's pride was still fearful of Looming Shadow Frenzy's speed. Looming Shadow Frenzy was also fearful of to place one's pride. F***CK. Is he really a Grandmaster of Combat? If he can train a lousy Grandmaster of Combat to this level, wouldn't he be able to fly if he switched to another class? This kid is already so ferocious, wouldn't that Iron Ox be even crazier? Thinking up to this point, the two quietly sized each other up. At the same time, the audience on the stage was also extremely shocked. Everyone had thought that this match between the spoiled brat who gave the middle finger would be as boring as the previous matches. Who knew that these two guys would fight back and forth and fight beautifully? Not to mention anything else, just the few dodging predictions just now were clearly not far from a professional standard. I couldn't tell, but that brat is pretty good. Yeah, that warrior isn't weak either. Looming Shadow of Asaro has finally shown his true strength after losing 3 matches in a row. Looking at the two people on the stage, the audience in the arena began to discuss. Chuanjin was also a little surprised. To be able to fight a serious chick to this extent, this Looming Shadow Frenzy really is something. Yup. Master Warrior Bao San said confidently. If it were me, my attack speed and skill release would be slower. I wouldn't dare to say that I could find his weakness within 20 rounds. Tsk. Unfortunately, this isn't a one-man game. No matter how good a person is, they can't carry a bunch of useless teammates. Everyone sighed. Wang Yu said lightly, "That's not for sure. If their leader was me." F***CK. Everyone forcefully interrupted Wang Yu's words and said angrily, "Aliens, stay aside." Just as everyone was shocked, to place one's pride seemed to have thought of something. He narrowed his eyes and charged forward again. Looming Shadow Frenzy held his long sword in front of his chest and waited for his enemy. "Eat my kick." To place one's pride roared and flew up when he was a few meters away from Looming Shadow Frenzy. Chance. Looming Shadow Frenzy was overjoyed. He grabbed the hilt of his sword with both hands and swung it up forcefully. Rising Dragon Slash. Hee hee. In the air, to place one's pride chuckled and landed on the ground with eagle stamp again. He rolled forward and rolled behind Looming Shadow Frenzy. This move again? Looming Shadow Frenzy panicked and quickly cancelled Rising Dragon Slash. He wanted to use Whirlwind Slash like before to force to place one's pride to be unable to attack. However, the system humorously told Looming Shadow Frenzy, "Your skill is still on cooldown." F***CK. Looming Shadow Frenzy broke out in cold sweat. Although Looming Shadow Frenzy's attack speed was comparable to place one's pride's, in terms of skill cooldown time, no class had a shorter cooldown time than a Grandmaster of Combat skill. Therefore, in a battle against a Grandmaster of Combat, one had to completely suppress him in the first wave. If a warrior fought to a draw with a Grandmaster of Combat skill in the first wave, then he would have already lost a lot. After all, a warrior would have to wait for their skill cooldown after using a wave of skills, while a Grandmaster of Combat skills would be refreshed by then. In a battle between experts, a single opening could determine the victor. While Looming Shadow Frenzy was stunned, to place one's pride grabbed Looming Shadow Frenzy's leg with Ferocious Tiger Strike and placed him on the ground. Tyrannical Fist Dance. Following to place one's pride's roar, a sky full of fist shadows smashed into Looming Shadow Frenzy's body. After a series of skills, Looming Shadow Frenzy's health bar was reduced by a third and he was stunned. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.